G'day there guys, it's your Aussie hubby Markee, back at it again with another episode of r/AmiTheA. Now if you love today's content like I love you, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn on the barbie, and enjoy today's bloody good content. Posted by user Throwaway822020, titled, Am I the a-hole for not wanting to raise a kid that isn't mine? My girlfriend became pregnant 7 years ago. It wasn't planned. I didn't want to be a dad, but did the right thing and married her. She gave birth to a girl who is now 6. I tried to be a good father, bought her toys and crap, but things changed back in April when I found out that around the time my wife became pregnant, she was fudging around with a lot of guys, and the kid may not even be mine. I got a DNA test done, and turns out I'm not the father. My soon-to-be ex and I are in the process of getting a divorce. As soon as I found out about the kid not being mine, I told my wife to take her kid and get the frick out of my house. She went to live with her mother. When they were leaving, I didn't let the kid take any of the toys and stuff that I'd bought for her. I paid for them, and she's not even my kid. My wife called me every name in the book, but I stood my ground. Yesterday was the kid's birthday. My soon-to-be ex-wife called me and told me I needed to be there for her birthday party. I told her to go screw herself. I wasn't wasting any more time and money for a kid that isn't even mine. She berated me for abandoning my daughter and how she's been crying for her father. I told her to take the kid to her real father, whoever the hell he is. Now my brother got to know about this and chewed me out. He said I was being a dick and I should have at least shown up for the kid's birthday party. So, am I the a-hole? Yes, you are, but she is also. The kid is not. She sucks for cheating, covering up, and not telling you about the daughter situation. You definitely had a right to know about that. But you suck for going nuclear like this. I feel like there is a healthy middle ground we can get to. But, the way OP's going about it, no class, all anger, all gas, no brakes, really. I don't really stand by it. It's still your daughter. You've raised this child for 6 years. Are you just going to cut all of that off and say, you know what, it's not my kid anymore. I'm not bound to it. Unfortunately, I think legally you are bound to that kid for another 12 years. And you were a dick for not even showing up to the kid's birthday party. It's still your kid. So everyone sucks here. Everyone sucks here. Your ex sucks for cheating, but congratulations for bailing on a child who has only ever known you as their father, and being able to turn your back on her this quickly says more about you. The way he talks, he probably never cared about the child in the first place, even though he's been raising her for 6 years, fully believing she was his own child. But he bought her crap, and then kept all of it. Like, what is he going to do with all of the toys? Is he really being so petty as to not let the kid keep the toys? Total, you're the a-hole. These Paw Patrol figurines are mine, and I will do with them as I please. I'm not a fan of actions that are designed purely to hurt people. Yes, Mum hurt OP, so now OP will hurt a 6-year-old child. This guy is a gem of a human being. You're the a-hole. Why would you not even let the girl keep her things? You raised her for 7 years, that's her stuff. Do you not care about her at all? Being mad at her mum for cheating is one thing, but it's not okay to take it out on the child like that. She didn't choose her parents. I really love what you posted, though I'm going with everyone sucks here except the child. The way OP talked about the little girl as if she were a burden to him. She only knows OP as her dad. It's so unfair to her. She was probably scared to see them yell at one another, and for her not being able to take her stuff. You're the a-hole for taking out your anger at your ex on a child. I get that she's not your child, but she's 6. You have been her dad her entire life, and throwing her out while keeping her goddamn toys is a whole new level of a-hole. You owe your ex nothing, but you owe an innocent child caught in the middle of a pile of bullcrap some common fudging decency. You don't have to buy her any toys or presents to treat her like a child you've raised for 6 years and stop in to say happy birthday, or at least call. Does a lack of biological relationship actually cancel out 6 years of bonding and love for you? because that's some sociopathic BS right there. It doesn't sound like he loved her or felt any kind of bond with her at all in the first place though, because if he did, then he wouldn't be able to shun this poor child out so easily. Posted by user Actuator Unusual. Titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my pregnant friend that she is a messed up woman with daddy issues after she accused me of being a gold-digging cougar because I'm dating her husband's son? Now that's one of the more wild titles I've seen in a while. So, my friend, we'll call her Pat, started dating this guy Eric 3 years ago. He was her boss at the company. Later we found out that the guy was in fact a married man with 3 kids. He was in his early mid-40s. My friend here was 27. I told her that she was crazy for dating a married guy and that it would end badly. A few months later, we heard that he was getting divorced. Being her childhood friend, I did attend her wedding even though I didn't approve of their relationship. Soon after their wedding, they were fighting all the time because her husband's former father-in-law, who was the founder of the company, was planning to appoint the oldest son as the boss. All the stress involved took a toll on her husband's health, and he ended up having a heart attack. She called me crying at 2 a.m, and we took him to the hospital. In the morning, the oldest son, Sam, showed up and went in to check on his father. And that's how I met my boyfriend. Fast forward a year later, Sam and I are madly in love. I've met his siblings, his mother, grandfather, and basically everyone close to him. I was worried about breaking this news to Patricia, and worried about her reaction, because she would always complain that Sam was a rich, spoiled brat who manipulates and disrespects his father. He has never acknowledged my friend or said a word to her. She's also 6 months pregnant, and as of late, has made weird comments about my body. I'm very lean and extremely calorie conscious, which has made me feel like crap about myself. One day she saw me and Sam kissing outside my home and freaked out. She blew up at me really hard, saying that I was betraying her friendship and that I had to break it off with Sam. She said horrible things about him, things like how he's a womanizer and banged different girls every weekend. She also called me a hypocrite and a desperate gold-digging cougar for dating a younger guy. I'm 24 and he turns 23 next month. It got to a point where I lost my cool and lashed out at her, saying that being a desperate cougar was better than being a messed up woman with severe daddy issues who got with an older married guy for financial security. She got really agitated and left my home crying. My other friends are telling me that I'm an a-hole and should have kept my mouth shut because she's hormonal and pregnant. She never had a dad growing up and looked up to my father as a father figure. I know my comments were hurtful, but I was pushed. Am I the a-hole? I honestly don't know what to say. My brain kind of turned off halfway through this one, because it's just like watching a huge tire fire go out of control, and these two just keep chucking petrol in there. And it's just non-stop anger and, she said, screw you, no, you. Both of them suck. Both of them have problems, it seems. Both of them shouldn't have said what they said, but it got to a breaking point and I don't think I can blame them for it. The friend being hormonal and pregnant is more gas to the fire. It's not an excuse for her behavior. And the daddy issues is more gas, no brakes. So what I mean to say is everyone sucks here in this situation and they should just be better people, really. I can't believe you talked to your mother-in-law like that. Everyone sucks here. You both said very hurtful things. She's more of the a-hole here though. Don't break up with your boyfriend, but break off your friendship. I think it's time to pull the plugs on the friendship. She is more of an a-hole, but you should have told her the truth and not let her find out because she saw y'all kissing. Y'all were best friends, and your dad was her father figure. You owed her the truth. Everyone sucks here. Not the a-hole, maybe a light everyone sucks here. You could apologize to your friend, but I really want you to consider whether you have a relationship still due to being childhood friends, or if you genuinely enjoy one another as people. You can't just blame absolutely everything on being pregnant, even though being pregnant sucks ass. I say you should talk to her, But don't make excuses or go on the defensive. You aren't in the wrong, and you shouldn't let her make you feel like you are. Consider each other's feelings, be kind, and talk calmly. I know you can work it out in the end. I don't know. I don't exactly enjoy her company, but my family essentially raised her. We've grown up together. But our relationship suffered because I disapproved of her affair with her now husband. She's always been a bit on the heavier side, not fat by any means, but chunky, and I've always been very skinny. So over the years, she always made weird comments about my body, which only increased after she got pregnant and put on 30 pounds. I don't particularly like spending time with her. In that case, you should probably demote her to an acquaintance or cut ties altogether. If she thinks so negatively of you, she doesn't deserve your time. Posted by user NoWing868, titled, Am I the a-hole for being brutally honest about my financial stability? So I'm 26, I have no student debt, and I own a condo outright. My co-workers in the office are very anti-young people and constantly rag on those millennials and their financial irresponsibility. I'm one of 4 people under 30 in the office, and my co-workers are usually shocked by my age. They know I have no college debt because I mentioned it once, and I mentioned in passing that I bought a condo. On the last happy hour Zoom meeting, they started in on their talk. I tried to gently defend my generation, only to have them say I shouldn't because, unlike them, I'm actually responsible, and I proved that millennials actually could do it if they really tried. Here is the thing though. My aunt died when I was 8, and she basically left enough money and time for my parents to invest for a college fund. I have my condo because my grandmother died this year, and I was on the lease, and I have enough to pay off the $20,000 left on the mortgage. Basically put, my success is, to be blunt, people dying at a convenient time. I was sick of them, so I told them that my advantages were literally inheritance and that I'm not better than my cohort, just luckier. They were all shocked that I would be so cavalier and blunt, and now people are irritated. Am I the a-hole? So if I compare this one, where I said he was an a-hole for talking about his debt, with the uncle, I'd say this doesn't fall under the categorical tall poppy syndrome that a lot of Australians succumb to. You can't be better than me, come on, don't stand out from the crowd kind of ideology we have. These people on the Zoom call were, assuming, making assumptions, crapping on millennials like a lot of people do, apparently. And this guy defended himself with the truth of the matter. It's that he was just very lucky. And I don't believe that's something to be ashamed about. You've lost people in your life, and they've given you things. That luck has come with a lot of loss. But as a result, it put you in a much better situation than a lot of your peers, and that's nothing to be ashamed about being so cavalier and blunt about. They have no right to be irritated. You're not the a-hole here. Not the a-hole. Success is 99% inheritance, either direct money or networking through family. Many older folks, boomers especially, cling to the bootstrap myth that all you need is desire and hard work to get what you want. They stubbornly refuse to admit that the playing field isn't even and never has been, and completely disregard how much the systems have changed since they were 20 to 40 years old. Knowledge and skills are more specialized now, and there are far fewer programs and subsidies. It's not enough to just do what your dad did when dad's methods are outdated and don't work in the current economy. Many of them still believe that you should be out pounding pavement, resume or CV in hand, and demand interviews at places that haven't taken paper submissions in years. And it doesn't help that those same boomers have cannibalized the system for their own comfort and gain because they were coddled and catered to for most of their lives. I cannot tell you how many times I've had to argue with my dad when I've been job searching because I'm not out pounding the pavement for 6 hours a day, driving around, putting in job applications at any place with a now hiring sign. It took him years, and more than a couple attempts to prove me wrong, to realize that most hiring is now done online. He quite literally left the house at 8 a.m. one day and didn't come back until nearly 5 in the afternoon just to prove me wrong. and came home with one paper application and a whole host of websites to go to. And that was the only thing that changed his tune. Getting him to admit that moving out was financially impossible took full disclosure of mine and my wife's finances. We live with them for financial reasons, and a printout of web search for apartments in our area to show him that we just couldn't afford rent. He was blown away by the fact that a one-bedroom is around $800 a month in our area, and he thought that they were still around $500 or $600 a month. People get entrenched in their mindset, and it takes them a lot to change. We have hit a point of stability now, and we're just 4 adults. He, my mum, me, and my wife, living in a house and making sure we all pitch in to keep things good. But it took a lot of arguing to get here. Edit to add, since so many are asking, we live in the Metro Detroit area. I've seen as low as $800 and as high as $1,200 depending on area. Posted by user ThrowRA55FS. Titled, Am I the a-hole for choosing my dad over my mum? Throwaway account because my friends know my original account. I'm posting this here because I believe some of you all can understand my point of view and guide me through the right path. Thank you in advance. My 15 female parents filed for divorce a few months ago, after my dad found out about my mum's infidelity. This broke his heart because she was his high school sweetheart. I've never seen my dad cry for anything, but after finding out that my mum got pregnant with her POS new boyfriend, he broke down crying in his room. I'm really disgusted by my mum, and I don't want to have a relationship with her. I was always closer to my dad because my mum wouldn't treat me well growing up, so I chose my dad and told them that I don't want to see my mum ever again, knowing that she did this to us. She betrayed my dad and broke any trust we had in her. My mum is now mad at me for choosing my dad because I'm their only child. She wants me to be there by helping her with the pregnancy, but I don't want to do anything with her, her boyfriend, or their unborn child. I'm honestly tired of her. She accused my dad of brainwashing me and flaunting his money to make me stay with him. Yes, my dad is richer than her. His family is also wealthy, but I chose him because I don't want to leave him alone. I don't want to betray him like my POS mum did. My aunts, mum's sisters, are now blaming my dad and are harassing me for isolating my mum. They're calling me an ungrateful child because my mum carried me for 9 months and I'm not choosing her. I can't talk to my friends about this as they don't understand my life. They don't have divorced parents, and I just wanted to know if I did the right thing or not. So, am I the a-hole? Edit 1. Hello everyone. First of all, I would like to thank every single one of y'all here. Thank you for understanding my pain, and thank you for showing me the true colors of my mum. All these, while I thought she really wanted me to be there with her because she was weak during her pregnancy, but reading everyone's comments made me realize that she actually wants me as the unpaid nanny. She also wants me to be with her because she wants my dad to pay child support. I was really gullible and thought she wanted me because she loved me. I feel crappy now. I have blocked all of my aunt's numbers and I showed my dad this thread. Like some of y'all suggested, I would definitely let my dad's lawyer know about the harassment that I was receiving. I'm not sure if I want to cut my mum off from my life entirely or not, and I know her unborn child is innocent, but I'm not ready to face any of them. I hope in the future, I'm strong enough to forgive her and be a sibling to her child. But for now, I want to be with my dad because he needs it. I suggested therapy for both of us, and my dad agreed too. He was really thankful for everyone's comment also. Thank you again, thanks for the awards, 10 kind strangers. I would definitely reply to the DMs as soon as possible, and I just need some time to digest everything. Thank you again, have a great day everyone. Well, I think given that OP is not the a-hole in this situation, before the edit, I'm sure there was a case to be made for OP being an everyone sucks here situation, or maybe you're the a-hole for going against your mother. That would be a weird and wonderful reality, not one that I want to live in personally, as I feel for OP. It's a rock and a hard place situation, but ultimately I believe that going with the dad was the best decision and it came with the best outcome of all. You don't want to be emotionally manipulated by your mother, you don't want to be guilt-tripped into going with one over the other, And she did make the right decision in the end, not the a-hole. And don't ever think that you are, ever. You are old enough to make your own decisions, and I don't blame you for choosing your dad over your mom. Anyone in that situation would. What you did was right. If you don't want anything to do with your mom, that's your decision, and no one can change that. You said yourself that she has broken the trust between you, and that's not easily repairable. Block your aunts so they can no longer contact you or harass you. They clearly don't understand your point of view in this situation. You're not ungrateful, and I can't imagine why they would say that or even think that. Stay strong. Not the a-hole. As someone whose parents divorced for the same thing, even though it was my dad that was unfaithful, I also wanted to add something. You're a good kid, a truly good kid. You are trying to think for yourself instead of being pushed around with someone else's opinion. Keep doing so. You'll never be right in everyone's eyes in the end. If you express your opinion, you will be told to shut up because the divorce doesn't concern you. And guess what? It actually does concern you. If you don't, you will pee someone off. If you think your dad is right, someone will be mad. If you think your mum is right, someone else will be mad. Everyone feels entitled to butt in, even though it's none of their business. So the best course of action is doing what you think is right. If you feel your mum betrayed you and your dad, what you feel is valid. Don't doubt your feelings. Your parents may be the ones getting a divorce, but you have every right to feel whatever you may feel. And yes, it does concern you. We as children may have nothing to say in the matter, and we should respect our parents' decision, but we do suffer with it. Try to be at peace with yourself. Try to see everything clearly, and don't ever allow yourself to be influenced. Your aunts are trying to do so by trying a guilt trip, so keep true to yourself. Posted by user, deleted their account, whoops. Titled, Am I the a-hole for planning to go on a trip with my biological kids without my stepkids? I know the title sounds bad, but please hear me out. I, 45 male, remarried 2 years ago. I have 4 kids from my first marriage, 15 male, 12 female, and 9 male. My ex and I have 50-50 custody. I get them twice a week and every other weekend. Due to COVID, we just switched back to this schedule because I am an essential worker. My wife has 3 kids from her previous marriage, 14 female, 10 male, 8 male. My stepkid's dad gets custody as well. Well, this weekend, my stepkids are going to their dad's house and I have my kids. My parents have a lake house and are hosting a family gathering. I planned on going with my wife, biological kids, and stepkids. However, they are with their stepdad, so they can't go. My wife said that we should not go because they will be jealous, and we are doing lots of water activities, including jet skiing, tubing, paddleboarding, etc. I asked if she could ask her ex if they can come this weekend, and he would have them next weekend. But no, because they already have plans. Keep in mind that my stepkid's dad is very wealthy. He has a huge backyard with a hot tub and a pool with a waterfall and cave. Whenever he has them, they go on lavish trips, and for holidays and birthdays they get expensive gifts. My kids understand that they don't have that and never give their stepsister or brother a hard time about it. But they would be bummed if they could not go to the lake. I promised my stepkids that we would do something fun, but now there is bullying and tension between the kids, and my wife blames me for still planning on going. Am I the a-hole? This is another one of those where it's like, rock into hard place. The stepkids obviously have a step up in this one. They have it a lot better in some ways than your biological kids because of that parent that takes them away and gets them expensive gifts. Do your biological kids have a right to be jealous and take it out on them for having a better lifestyle? Do the stepkids get to take it out on you guys for not taking them to the lake house when you promised them to go? These are all different situations. I think it's very dependent on who they are and what kind of situations you find yourselves in as a family dynamic. Personally, from the outside looking in, I'd say, you have to go on this trip. What, are you going to just cancel it because you can't have the stepkids? You may be an a-hole in the stepkids' eyes for doing so, but ultimately you'd be an a-hole for cancelling it for your biological kids, who they had no control over. Therefore, you've just got to do it. I don't think you're an a-hole. I think you're just in a very tough position. Edit. Thank you for all of your replies. I sat down and had a talk with stepkids, wife, and bio kids present. We talked about everyone's concerns and needs. We came to a conclusion that wife, bio kids, and I are going to Lake House this weekend. Stepkids also have fun plans with their dad this weekend. In 2 weeks, we will go back down to the lake for a weekend. Stepkids apologized for their behavior, wife apologized for her ultimatum. Everyone left happy and conflict resolved. Thank you for your help. I'm gonna read some comments anyway, because it's just tradition. Not the a-hole. Please take your kids. Your wife is being extremely unreasonable. Your stepkids get lots of activities that your bio kids don't get. I would turn it around on your wife. Hey wife, stepkids went to Disney last year with their dad. We now need to take my bio kids. It's only fair. I don't want to make them jealous. Hey, just saw the stepkids' dad bought the kids new iPads. We need to save to give all my kids those too. It's only fair. See how fast she changes her tune. Not the a-hole. Your wife thinks your kids shouldn't hang out with their own family while her kids are out being pampered by their father? You need to stand up for your kids. Sheesh. Not the a-hole. If your parents are hosting, it's not your fault that it's a bad weekend. If their dad won't switch weekends, it's not your fault they won't be with you. There is no reason to deprive yourself and your kids of fun just because it doesn't work for the other kids' schedules. Life isn't fair sometimes. Posted by user NachoMama34. Titled, Would I be the a-hole if I exclude my husband from the birth of our 6th child? I'm 38 weeks pregnant. My husband has been a great supporting partner in all of our 5 children's births. Some we've birthed at home, some at the hospital, and he's caught all of them and been my best cheerleader. I really don't think I would have been able to make it through without him. We have a great marriage and are generally happy. So here's the but. 2 years ago, he started a new career in the medical field. He has to attend births in our small rural hospital. Prior to this, he has only ever seen me give birth. Now that he's seen many women give birth in all sorts of situations and outcomes, he has taken to mansplaining birth to me. Sometimes his mansplanations aren't even correct. He told me from what he's seen, the average pregnancy lasts 38 weeks. I told him that the average pregnancy is 40 weeks. That's how they came up with that number in the first place, because it's the average. He's worked at one early induction happy hospital. That doesn't make him an expert, and besides that, I don't care at all when other women go into labor. That has nothing to do with my body. I know what my body does. So I averaged out my 5 births, and my average is 39 weeks and 6 days. So basically, right around 40 weeks. It's pissing me off that he's suddenly acting like something is wrong with me for going a perfectly normal and healthy length of time. He also likes to mansplain other aspects of birth and compares what I do to other women. He even went so far as to say he's worried now that I'll be giving birth with his co-workers and not some random hospital staff, that I'll embarrass him. Listen, I have extremely fast labors. My first was under 2 hours, and many of mine have been less than an hour. Guess what? That's not the norm or average either, but that's what my body does. Do you know what it means to have fast labors? There's no time to get an epidural or any other pain relief. I have only ever had all natural births, and that's the plan for this one too. So if I get a little short and snappy with people while I'm pushing a human out of my body and doing the single most difficult thing of my life, I think I get a pass. I'm kind of concentrating on pushing a bowling ball out of my lady parts, and not tiptoeing around everyone's feelings, especially not his. So after me blowing up at him for being embarrassed, I told him I don't want him there. If his ego is so fragile, then he doesn't have to be there at all. If he doesn't know what happened, he can't be embarrassed by it. Problem solved. Honestly, I don't really want to go to the hospital with all the COVID restrictions. I'm not afraid at all to birth at home by myself. Like I said, I've done it before. Would I be the a-hole if I just had the baby and then told him after our son is born? AITA, he's a respiratory therapist. He's only there at the end in case the baby isn't breathing. and we do need to talk at least once more. I don't want to exclude him to be petty. I don't want to have anyone there that is unsupportive. Honestly, this is a very sound and level-headed argument that she's making here. It's not even an argument, it's just her laying down what she expects of him. He's the one making a big deal of this all. She's kind of just like, I'm here to do my job, I need to focus, I don't care about your feelings, it's normal, these workers are not here to judge me, they may be your co-workers, but they're here to get a job done. You're the one making it weird, buddy. I don't see anything wrong with what she's said. If she doesn't want him there because he's not being supportive, it's only going to add unnecessary stress to the birth, and she already has to do it without an epidural from her 5 previous pregnancies. I can't imagine the pain. I genuinely can't imagine the pain. I wouldn't even say that we don't know the full story here. We do know the full story now. He's intentionally being like this. I feel like there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The husband is living in loopy land, and she's sick of it. If she wants him there, she'll have him there. If he's not supportive, she won't have him there. They're going to talk about it. I feel like she's not the a-hole in any of this. Not the a-hole. Your medical procedure, your say. Stress can delay and cause complications with delivery. If he's there stressing about his work, he's likely to stress you out, and he's not being your partner in supporting you. He needs to be there to support you. He's more focused on himself right now. If he can't shape up, not the a-hole, but if you all have a great marriage and he's been your best cheerleader, you owe him a calm discussion about how you have appreciated his support during your previous labors and how that is what you want again. If he can't give you that, then tell him he's not welcome in the delivery room. Precisely. I am guessing this is also the first one after he began his new career. He's going to understand that he will maybe be there in a different capacity from working there. And I know it's hard, but a calm talk when neither of you are stressed during a quiet time might help. You can give him the opportunity to be better. Good luck. Why is it her job to make him better? Isn't he a full-grown man, a father of 5 no less, who should be perfectly able to adjust to a better human from the feedback he's already got? Because sometimes we all get a little too stuck in selfish mode, and it's helpful when our loved ones point that out to us. It's just part of a partnership. In a relationship, you are a team. No one is perfect. If you blamed everyone or dropped them at every opportunity, nothing would last. There is no shame in telling someone how what they are doing isn't ideal, and giving them a chance to understand that, and hopefully better it. This. I know Am I the A-hole is collectively a little therapy happy at times, which I'm personally fine with. We could all use a little more knowledge of self. But this might be a good discussion to have with a neutral mediator. Dad's proud of his new career and experience, and probably trying to be more involved, while Mum has done this before and doesn't need Statler and Waldorf in the delivery room. Both valid points, both really emotional topics, totally fair to want to referee. Not the a-hole regardless. Posted by user ResidentCoat5678, titled, Am I the a-hole for proposing to my girlfriend in a way she didn't like? So I, 34 male, have been seeing my girlfriend, 28 female, for 4 years. We've talked about marriage and kids in passing. It's always been something we're both open to, but we're both quite career-minded, and that's been our focus. She and her brother often joke and complain about the pressure they feel from their parents to get married. He has been in a relationship longer than we have, and still not engaged. And I've seen as well how it's something their parents drop unsubtle hints about all the time. I don't think they mean it to feel like pressure. They just want their kids to be happy, and they want to be grandparents. Anyways, I've been thinking about it a lot lately. I've reached that point in my life where marriage is increasingly appealing. I'm ready to make that commitment, and I know she's the one for me. Her parents hosted a dinner party to celebrate us all being able to finally visit each other's house again. It was me, my girlfriend, her brother, his girlfriend, and our 3 sets of parents. It seemed perfect to me. So after dessert, I got down on one knee and proposed. She looked pretty stunned and said, I guess? And everyone laughed. All the parents started celebrating, her mother was crying, her father was opening champagne, and we were all hugging. We went home later, and I told her how happy I was to spend the rest of my life with her, and she started crying and saying she felt like she had no choice. This upset me. It was hardly the enthusiasm I'd hoped for, and I asked if she loved me. She said she did, and maybe she did want to get married, but the way I proposed made it feel like her answer was a foregone conclusion, and she didn't have time to think about it. And even now, she knows that if she were to change her mind, she'd be letting everyone down and disappointing her parents. She says she wished I'd proposed privately, so we could talk together about what it really means and what our future looks like, and she could be really 100% sure of her decision before announcing it to her family. She feels like I've removed her opportunity to prepare for her parents' reaction and make sure she was saying yes because she wanted to, instead of because of expectation. She says she's less sure than ever about our relationship because the proposal shows how little I know her or what she wants. I thought I was being romantic, and even if it wasn't her ideal proposal, I don't see why that should affect her answer. Our relationship's about more than just that one evening. Am I the a-hole? So, is he just gonna ignore what she said at the end there? Is this a troll? Am I being kerfuffled? What? Our relationship's about more than just that one evening, yet she says she's not sure if you understand her. How little she knows or what she wants. I mean, he really went against her wishes. And obviously it's more than just that one evening, but come on, the wife's reaction tells you everything. That's all I can say, Opie. I'm genuinely flabbergasted. You're the a-hole. Why did you do that? You're the a-hole. You really should have been paying more attention to these discussions on how much pressure their parents have put on them to get married, and how uncomfortable that is. Asking in front of the people who pressured her to get married was probably the absolute worst way to propose to this woman. Your intentions were good, but you really should have read the metaphorical room with your girlfriend when it comes to marriage and proposals. You're the a-hole. I don't even think his intentions were good, to be honest. His intention was to live the rest of his life with the woman he loves the most, and he wanted that in a romantic way. How are his intentions not good? Edit, I first had the last question as, how is that not good? But that wasn't clear enough that it was about his intentions, not his actual deeds. I don't know if it's true, but it seems kinda obvious that she wouldn't be able to say no in front of her parents. It seems like he might have been being manipulative by asking in front of them. The post implies he wasn't aware of this dynamic in play, but I don't know how you wouldn't be. And notice he doesn't say anything about her being ready, it's just he's decided he's ready. So let's skip all the unnecessary discussing of should we and are we both ready, etc., and just get right to the good part of me proposing all romantic-ishly and you saying yes. And burst into tears and pat me on the back for deciding for the both of us that we shall get married now. Isn't it pretty standard advice that you don't propose without having conversations about the marriage first? The proposal itself should be a surprise, but the question and the answer shouldn't be. Seems like OP never bothered with that part, which to me makes it seem like he isn't ready for marriage, to be honest. Being on the same page is kind of important to a long-lasting marriage. It pains me to say this, but you're the a-hole. She has a point. When I saw the title, I was ready for a story about some entitled girl who was mad that you didn't make some huge grand gesture with fireworks and crap, but she has a point on this one. By making a public spectacle out of it, you really did force her into a corner. Saying no in that situation is incredibly awkward, to the point that most people couldn't bring themselves to do it, and now, as she said, she feels kind of trapped into it because all those people who saw her say yes and all got excited about it. Not gonna lie, I did the same thing, too young, and she ended up breaking it off. Not saying that's going to happen to you, but the yes in that case didn't mean a lot. She just felt compelled to say yes. Posted by user Melissa0969. Titled, Am I the a-hole for sunbathing wearing only a thong? So my best friend is mad at me and is telling me I'm the a-hole for sunbathing in my pool, in my backyard, in just a thong. And if I don't stop, our friendship of 20 plus years is over. Some details. I live in the country on a large family farm with no close neighbours, and the closest neighbours are my brother and my parents. You can't see my pool or me sunbathing in it unless you come into my backyard. My BFF's boyfriend works for my father's construction business, and they sometimes come to the farm to work in my dad's shop when they have to pre-fabricate stuff for jobs. Well, I've gotten in the habit of getting in my pool every afternoon at around 4 p.m. The joys of working from home, am I right? And sunbathing until around 5 or 6. Well, her boyfriend came over unexpectedly one afternoon and caught me topless sunbathing. I immediately grabbed my top and put it on with my back turned. He obviously was ogling my breasts though. Since then, every time he works at the shop, I see him driving by my backyard and my pool, which he doesn't have to do to leave and is actually out of the way when he's leaving for the day. And if I'm in the pool, he always stops, walks to my pool, and interrupts my sunbathing, even after I've told him there's no reason to come to my house unless he comes with my friends. I got upset about it and told my friend that her boyfriend is a pervert and that he's driving by my house to try to catch me in the pool topless. I also told her he was hitting on me and saying what a great figure and beautiful breasts I have. Her response is that I'm in the wrong and that I'm trying to entice him and that I shouldn't be sunbathing in just a thong. I just don't get it. I'm on my property, alone, and he's going out of his way to try to see me. So am I wrong? Or is it okay for me to sunbathe in a thong in my pool in my backyard? I just feel like he's a creep and she should dump him, but I also don't want to risk losing my friendship with her. So, am I the a-hole? No, I don't think you are. I think you've made it very clear that he's going out of his way to do this, to perv on you, continuously, and will not stop when you tell him to stop. I don't see how it's your fault. This is victim shaming in the highest degree. You're not anywhere that can easily be found by someone. He's intentionally coming up to your property within, talking range to look at you. How is the girlfriend this blind? Not the a-hole. Edit. So, my BFF just showed up at my house and basically called me a tramp and accused me of trying to seduce her boyfriend. Evidently, they got into a fight today over him creeping, and he told her I kept giving him the eyes. Like, what? And she even had the audacity to point out the fact that my nightgown is short and sheer and shows cleavage. Like, really? It's after 8 p.m. and I'm home alone, yet she disapproves of my sleepwear? And that also makes me more of a tramp according to her. Another edit. Since everyone keeps telling me to tell my dad, I just called him and told him that he keeps coming over to my house after work to try to catch me in the pool, and that I don't like how he looks at me and talks to me. I told my dad it makes me very uncomfortable and he's been disrespectful. I also told my dad that I'd made it clear to him that I don't want him at my house without my BFF there. Daddy says that he'll talk to him first thing in the morning, and if he does it again, he's losing his job. A really serious edit. Don't message me for pictures of my breasts, it's not happening. Edit this morning. My dad just called me and told me he's going to call him and my 2 brothers into the office when they get to work at the shop this morning. He said he's going to have the rubber bands that they use when they castrate the bulls out when he comes in there. Dad is going to tell him if he even sees him on my side of the farm, my dad and brothers are going to ban him, and that'll solve the problem. Thanks everyone. I'm glad you don't think I'm the a-hole and that you advised me to tell my dad. I think the fear of illustration will solve my problem. Also, I didn't ask, am I the a-hole for calling my father daddy? And I really don't care what y'all say. I'll call him daddy today if I want. Same as I did when I was 5 and when I was 10. Get your minds out of the gutter and realize that it's okay for a young lady to refer to her father as daddy, and it shouldn't be misconstrued into anything more. Posted by user Secret Task 8729, titled, Am I the a-hole for calling my brother's girlfriend a name and telling her to get out of my house? throw away because I don't want it attached to my account. So I grew up in foster care. My parents weren't abusive or anything. They had died and there was no one to take me, so starting at age 6, I was in the system. When I was 12, I moved into a new home and met my foster brother, Alan. He is 2 years older than me, but we became close. He has always been protective of me, and after we both aged out, we remained close. He's been there through everything, from walking me down the aisle to being there when I had my baby. I consider him to be my only family, other than my husband and child. Recently, Alan started dating a woman named Miranda. I was super happy for him, and he brought her with him when he visited last. I thought she was great. She was sweet, she was funny, she seemed like a great fit for my brother. That was until my husband and Alan went outside to talk about Alan's new car. Miranda did a complete 180. She started accusing me of wanting to sleep with Alan and steal him from her, and said the only time a girl calls a guy a brother when they aren't related is when the girl is a tramp. I can't say I kept my cool. I yelled at her that she was not going to disrespect me in my own home, and if she was going to be an insecure tramp, I doubt my brother would stay with her. She tried to yell back, but I told her to get out of my house and not to come back. She made my brother leave with her. He later texted me asking how I could be so rude to his girlfriend, and I told him what happened. He broke up with her. My friends are telling me I'm the a-hole for how I spoke to her, and I shouldn't have stuck my nose in my brother's relationship. Am I the a-hole here? No, I don't think so. I think that's just her insecurity speaking, and you really should be wary of people like that because, who knows what they're going to do. I think you're lucky that she backed down and actually left in that situation and didn't escalate it any further. People can get crazy when it comes to defending their partner or keeping people they think of as threats away from you. So no, you're absolutely not the a-hole. She's completely disregarding your history with Alan, and screw her. Not the a-hole. Edit. Wow, I didn't expect this to blow up like this. Sorry I can't get to every comment, but here is some more info. Miranda knew that we were both raised together in foster care. Alan is close to his bio mum, and she has met her, but asked if I was his dad's child because there was no pictures of me and his mum is Latino. I look nothing like Alan, and I'm about as white as they come. We told her at dinner that I'm an orphan and we were foster siblings. She was also told of how we met and all the typical sibling stories. My friends also know how Alan and I are related. I didn't expect them to be those types of people. They 100% know that I have no feelings for Alan and only see him as my brother. I want to talk to them further about this because I now see they should have never taken Miranda's side. She is not a part of our friend group. None of us knew her. Alan met her online. The argument. Everything started off normal. Like I said, she was very sweet. When the guys went outside, she stayed in the kitchen with me to talk while I cleaned up. The conversation started off with the usual questions like what Alan was like when he was younger. She then started yelling that I wanted to sleep with Alan, that I had to be attracted to him, that I wanted to steal him, and then the tramp thing. I got angry and yelled back, asking what the hell was wrong with her. Why she would ever think I would want to sleep with my brother, and how dare she come at me with that disgusting crap. I yelled at her that she wasn't going to disrespect me in my own home, and that she was an insecure tramp, that I doubt my brother would stay with her, and that he deserved better. When she tried to yell back, I told her to get the hell out of my house and not to come back. From what my brother told me, she told him I started attacking her, saying that she was a tramp and telling her no one could have my brother. She told him I threw a pan at her and she fled my house. My brother didn't believe all of it, so he messaged me to ask about it. When I told him what happened, he said he would take care of it and he broke up with her. Not the a-hole! You helped your brother dodge a bullet. Yeah, whoever is telling OP she did the wrong thing is the a-hole. And of course, the girlfriend is a mega a-hole. Everyone needs a person like OP in their life. OP, not the a-hole. You did the right thing, and you should be very proud of yourself, because you sound like a wonderful friend and sister, and I'm sorry for your loss. Just want to tell you that, as a mum, I'm very proud of you too. I did a double take when I saw that. The way OP spoke to her was rude? No, she was beyond rude to OP. All OP did was stand up for herself and refuse to be disrespected in her own home. OP needs new friends. Posted by user, will never know because they deleted their account. Titled, Am I the a-hole for not wanting my wife to eat grass? My mum invited my sister and I over for an announcement the other night and told us that she got married. I don't know him well enough to judge, but he seems like an ass because he laughed at my car and asked what I do for a living that I drove that crap car. I actually met the guy once, but she never told me that she had a boyfriend, and they were together for 2 years, so I guess she doesn't give a crap about me. My wife is vegan, and my mum never cooks special food, but usually has a side salad at dinner, so she just eats the salad. Well, all she made for dinner was some one-pot Greek dish with chicken in it, and cooked in chicken broth, and there was no side salad. I asked my mum what my wife was supposed to eat, and she got very upset and said she just got married. We're supposed to be happy, and the night is about her. Look, my 5-year-old daughter actually told my mum that she is mean, and my mum looked at me like I was supposed to do something. We sat down, but I was immediately uncomfortable. I told my mum that I wasn't going to eat in front of my wife, and my brother-in-law said my wife should eat the grass. I could see how badly that hurt my wife, so I got up and said we were leaving. My mum said we are selfish because she got married and it is about her. As we were leaving, I heard my husband say, "Yeah, drive away in that car." My sister said that it was our mum's night and our chance to meet our stepdad, and I should have sucked it up. I'm sorry, who wants to stay in a house like that? This is like some sitcom bullcrap. Yeah, your wife can eat the grass. Yeah, you drive away in that car. Who the hell do you think you are insulting us? Get out of my house. No, wait, stay here and put up with us. God damn it. So yeah, that's how I feel about it. I don't really have a good opinion. I'm just ranting, and I think OP's not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Damn, Daniel. That was rude of her mum and her new husband, and I'm glad you left. The 5-year-old knew it was bad. He's not your stepdad. You're grown with a wife and child of your own. Just because your mother gets married doesn't make her new husband your stepdad. This is so true. My parents married when I was a senior in high school. I was a witness. We had to keep it a secret for years, almost 10. Don't ask me why, because I don't know the answer. My siblings and I were never allowed to be in that home, never lived in the same home as the step-parent or their children. We say step-parent because it's easier than explaining the whole situation, but we have no real emotional connection to that person. That person is our parent's spouse, and we respect them as such. But no one in our family pretends it's something that it isn't. That's actually helped us communicate and be more at ease with each other. Once we were past the age that our parents were expected to take care of us, we worked out what fit us best, and it's worked. I wish my parents would understand this. My dad's 31-year-old wife is not my stepmom. She was 11 when I was born. Not the a-hole. Your mum's new husband is an a-hole who can't even be bothered to try and make a good impression when announcing that he has joined your family. Your mum is an a-hole who doesn't give a crap about her guests when she hosts them, or about her new husband treating her guests like crap. Your sister is wrong. I would refuse to speak to them until they apologized, and then enjoy the long peace that results, because they don't want to apologize. It sounds like you'd be better off, to be honest. Posted by user, Am I the a-hole throwaway queer? Titled, Am I the a-hole for getting touchy with my doctor about doing a pregnancy test? Ever since I was 13, anytime I've had a stomach issue of any kind, doctors have always pushed pregnancy tests. Even though I was adamant that I was a virgin and was too afraid to talk to boys, let alone have sex. Now I'm an adult, 30 female, and I'm able to advocate for my own care better. Although I'm married to a man, 32 male, Since he's transgender, there is absolutely no chance that I'm pregnant. This last time at the doctor, I was having stomach issues that they still have yet to diagnose. Despite knowing my marital status, my doctor was adamant that I take a pregnancy test since I'm not on birth control. And why would I need to be, even though I'm monogamous? When she told me to take the test, not asked, I laughed and said it would be quite the immaculate conception and that no, I wasn't pregnant. She insisted, and so I told her there was no P&V sex, so back off. She looked offended and was weird throughout the rest of the appointment. Am I the a-hole for my comment? I don't get why it's been an issue for 17 years that doctors continue to persist, and there has been a record of you continuously not being pregnant. Why do they continue to do this? This is one of life's deep mysteries. Obviously, you stand corrected with your statements. I don't know why they don't take your pain seriously. They are supposed to be medical professionals, and it's their job to help you, not continue to hammer the same dead horse into the ground. Not the a-hole, but I don't know what you should do from here. Edit. Someone pointed out that the concern is also having to pay for the test. My main frustration is feeling not being believed, and then having to pay a ridiculous amount to prove that I was being truthful. If it was free, I'd more happily pee in the cup just to prove that doc wrong. Edit. Appreciate all the comments. Thank you. Also, I'm not a lesbian, not super offended, just be careful not to assume people's sexuality. It can be a touchy subject for trans people because to some it implies they are still female. Just some food for thought. I'm going to say that the doctor might be obligated to have a negative pregnancy test before writing receipts or recipes for certain medicines, which could cause malformation or miscarriage. I mean, why not just say that though if it's the case? I don't know. You're right. In any case, the doctor failed to communicate properly. As a soon-to-be medical professional, I don't think you're the a-hole for sticking up for yourself. It does sound like years of frustration built up that were loosed on your doctor though. That being said, you mentioned that she knew your marital status, but that doesn't necessarily mean she knew your husband is a trans man. She likely assumed your husband was born with a penis. I'm not saying it's right, I just want to bring some other perspective to the situation. Also, you would be surprised how often pregnancy is the cause for abdominal complaints. It's also a diagnosis that can have serious consequences, but can easily be ruled out. Unfortunately, not all patients are upfront about their sexual activity, as you seem to have been. So health professionals often need to order things like pregnancy tests. Again, you are not the a-hole. I just wanted to give some insight from the other side. True, and I understand that. But I tell all my doctors up front about my husband being female to male, so that we don't have to go through this dance every time. Somehow they still miss it. Unfortunately, we don't always remember these important pieces of information, and often our brains are trained to go to the most common situation. In any case, I'm sorry that you have to keep going through this frustrating situation. Also, HCG, pregnancy hormones, can also be elevated in some cancers, so maybe giving your doctor the benefit of the doubt is also trying to rule out the possibility as a urine pregnancy test is a cheap test to start with. Thank you for the info. I wasn't aware that that was even a thing. Yeah, there was a guy who had one of these tests for the lulz, but when it came back positive, he went to the doctor and found out about his cancer very early on. Pretty much the joke saved his life. This, a positive pregnancy test for a guy, is a 100% sign of cancer. For a female, it could be a baby, a brain tumor, or cervical cancer. Wow, talk about surprises. Posted by user AHeavyQuestion33. Titled, Am I the a-hole for sleeping through a plane ride when I was sat between a mother and her kid? So I had to fly recently for work, unfortunately. I was seated in a middle seat, and there was a mum and her kid in my row. The mum had the aisle, and the kid had the window. I thought it was a little weird that they bought seats like that. I asked the mum if she and her son had the seats they wanted, and she said yes. Then I did my usual plain habit of taking a couple Dramamine and putting on a sleeping mask, plus a medical mask now too, on, putting my noise-cancelling headphones on and wrapping myself up in a blanket and a pillow. I passed the hell out immediately, and I am a rock-solid sleeper, especially after I've had Dramamine. I woke up 20 minutes before the plane landed because I'd set an alarm, and the mum was like, "Oh, so now you wake up?" And I was kinda confused, and she says something petty about thinking I was dead. I made a joke about flying making me feel dead, and she got mad at me for making jokes when I'd been so rude to pass out that she was blocked off from her son the whole flight. I don't know what she meant by that, and honestly I was still woozy, so I was like, okay? But I'm wondering, am I the a-hole for sleeping on a flight? I thought that was normal. No? What is that reaction that the mum's had? Is she alright? You asked at the start, "Hey, are your seats all good? Alright, I'm out, bye." I don't really know what this mum was expecting. I mean, maybe if you were awake and pretending to be asleep it would be an a-hole move, but has she never flown before? People are just out cold. They're done for rights. She has no right to be mad at you. I don't see what's going on in her head. Not the a-hole. What the heck? If you were so conked out, that should have made it easier for her to interact with her son. Besides, she knows that's the risk if they buy their tickets that way. People do it in hopes that the middle seat will remain open, because the middle seats are always the last to get picked. Sleeping on a flight is perfectly normal and acceptable behavior. She was incredibly rude to even comment on it in this way. Not the a-hole. Move on with your life and forget this grumpy woman even exists. Wait a second, that's a thing people do? I've never heard of this potential life hack. Yep, my husband and I do it when we fly. The difference being that one of us switches with the middle seat if someone happens to buy the seat in between us. It'd be annoying to be sandwiched between a married couple, I think. What would you do if the person wanted the middle seat? Say they didn't like the window or the aisle, or they chose a single middle seat because they thought they'd be between strangers and not have to listen to constant yapping. If someone actually wants the middle seat on a plane, they need to be immediately reported to Homeland Security. Not the a-hole. You made sure they had the right seats. They did, so you did plenty. She can't be mad at you when she literally wanted it that way. Also, plenty of people sleep on planes. Totally fair. Yeah, and speaking as a traveler, if I had the option of interacting with my family member with an awake person versus an unconscious person between us, I would pick the unconscious person, because it's so much less awkward. Posted by user InfiniteLight5425, titled, "Am I the a-hole for kicking my friend out because of breastfeeding?" I had some friends over. One, a male with his wife, the other three female. One of the females, we'll call Jane, had a baby 2 months ago, and this is the first time we've seen her. She was away at a family's when she had her baby, so this was a small unplanned baby shower for her. After an hour or so, her baby got fussy, and she started breastfeeding her baby. One of their friends, we'll call her RB, rude bitch, started looking upset and asked, "Don't you think we should cover up, especially since there's a man here?" We all just kind of looked at her. My male friend said it's okay since his wife breastfeeds, and his wife nods her head. Well, this upset RB, and she looked back towards me and said to get a blanket. So I got her one, and she said no, it's to cover up with. So I did as she asked and opened up the blankets, and all the while all the other people were giving me a strange look, and I covered RB's head and sat back down. RB got mad and took it off, and said no, that Jane needs to cover. I said what for. RB gets up and tries to put the blanket on Jane. I finally had enough and said if she didn't like seeing someone breastfeed, then she can either look away or leave. Yeah, she got mad saying how I'm choosing Jane over her and that she's known me longer. I told her that you should know by now that I don't believe in covering up, regardless of where you're at, and that it's my house. I also told her that she knows what a pain it is trying to cover up a breast in a screaming, wiggling baby's mouth. So have a nice day. So yeah, she's mad at me, but the rest of us had a good time visiting. So would I be the a-hole for putting the blanket on RB's head? Lol. No, I think you're just making light of the situation. It's a good, fun gesture. No one else had a problem with it. Only RB did. Very odd. She's an a-hole for not reading the room and continuing to push her agenda of sorts when no one else had a problem. That's really what it comes down to. She couldn't accept that no one else was cool with it. She wasn't cool with it, so she had to change the situation. You made fun of her, you put the blanket on her head, everyone had a laugh at her expense. Still don't think you're an a-hole for that. Lol? Not only are you not the a-hole, but I think it's freaking hilarious that you got the blanket and put it over RB's head, making a really good point. Good for you. I came here with my pitchfork out, but you are so not the a-hole and well played with the blanket. Way to be a good friend and stand up for that poor woman. Being shamed for breastfeeding is awful, but you made the situation much better. Good job. Posted by user, I don't know, they deleted their account. Titled, Am I the a-hole for not letting my husband meet our firstborn child? My husband has this best friend, Anna. They've been friends for a long time and dated many years ago, mutually deciding that it's best for them to remain friends. I've had no problem with this relationship until now. On the day that I gave birth, Anna's brother got into a car accident. My husband got a call from her in the middle of the night and asked him if he could drop her at the hospital her brother was at, which was an hour away from us, since she was too scared to drive. My husband agreed, told me quickly while I was half asleep and rushed out. A few hours later, I had contractions and called my husband. He didn't pick up after multiple tries, so I gave up and called my dad, who drove me to the local hospital, which was 12 minutes away. I was so scared of giving birth alone since I've had about 3 miscarriages and 1 stillborn. My husband promised me that no matter what, he would be there for me. Guess what? He wasn't. He called multiple times while I was in labor, and when he finally picked up my dad's call when I was giving birth, saying that he'd misplaced his phone in the chaos, my dad informed him that no matter how fast he drives anymore, he's going to miss the birth of his child. Well, my husband took that as, he's already screwed up, so it doesn't matter when he shows up at this point. No, that's not it. So when he finally came, our daughter was about 5 hours old, and I had finally moved to the maternity ward. When he came, I refused to let him see our baby. Edit, did let husband hold and play with baby after discharge, because I was so high on emotions and was shaking when I saw him and didn't want it negatively affecting my time with the baby. I wanted her birth to be a happy time, and I was already struggling to feed her. My husband was in a bad state and told me to please let him see her, so I told him to stand by the window and held the baby up so he could see her. I told him to then leave and he'll be able to interact with the baby at my father's home when we're both well and out of the hospital, and that I was most likely divorcing him. He started bawling and apologizing and defended himself by saying that Anna's brother was in serious critical condition, and although he's fine, Anna needed him. Though Anna's parents were there, she's not that close with them and she was in an unbearable state. I told him that I didn't care and that his daughter already had come second to him and all she did was be born. I'm putting my daughter and Maya's health first and won't let her be sidelined. My husband agreed and left. However, Anna called me later and said that I was being controlling and she had never met someone as cruel as me for not letting a father see his baby. I told her that my husband made his decision and that this was his doing and not mine. But now I can't help but feel cruel in my actions and feel like I'm depriving my baby of both her parents being together. My husband sees her a few hours each day now. Am I the a-hole? Edit, I feel like this is useful information and could explain why I was so mad. Anna's brother was not in a life and death situation. He had serious injuries, but most were concentrated on his legs and arm. He did have a concussion but gained consciousness soon. Anna was there along with both her parents who managed all the hospital stuff. My husband was there as an emotional support for Anna. I did let my husband see our baby, right after I got discharged. Edit, husband saw baby, husband held baby, husband played with baby. I wanted a couple of days rest and bonding with the baby, since my emotions were so high, and I was afraid if my husband was a continuous presence, I would get stressed and something bad would happen. I told him as such. They spend time together, but I'm still cold with him. I may still be the a-hole, I don't know, but I'm still so mad at him, and it's not the first time he put Anna before me. I can forgive the other instances since I could handle it, but this time was the straw. I was so scared to hold my baby because I was paranoid the minute I touch her, something would happen to her, and no one was there to comfort me. I only had my dad, but he wasn't in the delivery room, which is why I'm not too keen on forgiving my husband. Also, we both knew the baby was due any time now, so I don't understand why my husband didn't have his phone on him. We even tried reaching out to Anna, and she didn't pick up either. Ooh, okay, there's some emotional support going on there, right? After he learned I was giving birth, he already knew that Anna's brother was going to be alright. He spent that time making sure that Anna was okay, and feeding her, and then waiting for the brother to regain consciousness. He could have come back after seeing his daughter to talk with the brother. He could have made it back in time. Edit. So many of you got it wrong. I'm not preventing him from ever seeing his baby. That is stupid and unreasonable. He literally saw her about a day later when we were discharged and safely at my dad's home. He already didn't see her for 5 hours on purpose and put Anna first. I didn't think an additional day would make much of a difference. And it wasn't to him. He was happy to see the baby, and he spends time with her all the time. She's 2 months now. And also, I'm not mad about the fact he went to see Anna. I'm mad that he didn't think we were a high priority to rush back to. He left me so quickly in the middle of the night when I was already late. He couldn't have left Anna in the care of her parents and rushed as soon as possible. She's not a child, and she doesn't have any mental health issues either. Edit 3. Sorry for all the edits, but someone just messaged me this. What if my baby was a stillborn again? He had no way to know since he and I didn't have any contact after I gave birth. Thank the stars, my baby is healthy and well, but it was a possibility. Edit/update. Thank you everyone for your replies. I think that I was the a-hole for using my child against him and should have told him that he could hold the baby and then asked him to leave. So the divorce is probably going to happen. My brother is looking at lawyers for me. In the midst of this whole mess, this post made me realize I never checked on Anna's brother to see how he's healing because I was so irked by Anna. I called him and he said that he was doing well and will be out of his wheelchair soon. He asked about me and the baby and how I was doing with the split, and if I was okay with my husband and Anna. I can't believe I was so oblivious. I thought they had an emotional thing going on because of this, and when I confronted my husband, he denied it and said me and our baby were his priority and he made a mistake and he was being dumb. Yeah, no. Anna's brother kindly informed me that he and Anna's parents thought that my husband and I split when I was 7 months pregnant, and that Anna and him were back on. He showed up at the hospital as Anna's boyfriend, which is why they didn't bat an eye that he was there, and not with his pregnant wife, because we apparently split. Her brother's procedures were done well before the afternoon, so I don't know what my husband and Anna were doing for all those hours, but I don't even want to know. If you want more details, I can answer in a comment. Thanks everyone for your kind words and advice. I will be moving back and filing for full custody. I don't want my baby growing up to be like her father or Anna. He can be fun dad or whatever it is he wants to be. Last edit. I think I'm going to take a break from Reddit now because ranting on the internet doesn't seem healthy. Thanks everyone for their support. I'll take it from here. Well, I think it's pretty clear from that. I don't think we need comments for this one. That was a rollercoaster and a half, I will admit. Posted by user BroncoBFBC. Titled, Am I the a-hole for calling my wife a Karen as she was making a scene? Throwaway account for obvious reasons. Here goes. My wife and I are very opposites. Like, very. She tends to have narcissistic episodes when she doesn't get her way. She can sometimes treat people like crap. A while back, we were at a Sonic getting some drinks during their happy hour, and they got the size wrong on a drink. She then asked the teenage girl, "How hard is your job?" I was livid. First off, Sonic was my first job as a kid. I went through PTSD mode of a customer yelling at me over a slight inconvenience. I've been on the other side of that window. I just yelled out, "Hey, chill out." She got mad at me and said, "I don't know why you defend them when they can't do their job right." We let it go. Fast forward to today. We've been trying to get our dog's nails trimmed for some time now at PetSmart, and we were finally able to make an appointment because of the Rona. We get there, and they can't find our names on the list, and they're pretty booked up till next week. She then starts to go off on the dog groomer and starts causing a scene, saying, "How could you lose my appointment? I've been waiting for weeks. I wish we still lived in Boston, because they have more pet marts and competent people working instead of useless people like you." I was embarrassed and livid at the same time, so I grabbed her arm and said, "Stop being a Karen and get in the car now. I will handle this." She storms off to the car, and I apologized to the staff, told them to call me instead of her, and apologized again. I seriously cannot stand it when people are rude to public servants. I couldn't keep quiet anymore. When I finally go outside, I find that she left me there. I call her, and she sends me to voicemail. I take a lift home. I get home, and she is mad in tears. She says that I embarrassed her and made her look like a fool when a partner should always have their partner's back, no matter what. I told her that I disagree to that, and she has now been giving me the silent treatment for about 6 hours now. Am I the a-hole? Edit 1. Yes, I love this person. Edit 2. She's my work in progress. We've talked about her behavior when we were engaged, and I called off the wedding due to her behavior. She acknowledged it and said that we are good for each other because I keep her grounded, but she sometimes reverts to her narc self at times. Edit 3. She dubbed herself work in progress, not me. Both situations, I've been trying to reason, is it okay to get mad at them for this? And me working at McDonald's for like almost 5 years? No, not really. You come back, and you be an adult, and you keep your emotions level, and you get the situation sorted. Now, the one with the dogs and the nails, that kind of does suck that they lost the appointment there, and I can understand being upset. But, you can always trim the dog's nails yourself. They have clippers for that. Unless your dog bites people like mine, I can understand that. But her actions were unreasonable. She's a work in progress. I don't think OP is the a-hole for calling her out. You're not supposed to put up with those kinds of behaviors. You're supposed to fix them. And he was giving her constructive advice, not the a-hole. Everyone sucks here. You two need to work on your communication skills. Agreed. OP does not get a pass for being the good guy. They should probably have a conversation when they start talking again. Grabbing her arm and yelling was not cool. Would like to know what you would have done if you were in OP's place. I'd probably have left it at a hand on the shoulder or around the arm. OP says, "I do not disagree with you. Our communication could be better." There are so many armchair therapists writing below. Don't break up with her because Reddit has told you to. Don't go back to using these arguments as ammunition. If you read enough of these, you will grow resentment against her, but these people aren't in your real life or in your heart. Not the a-hole. But man, you really might want to consider what you are actually dealing with here. She's my work in progress. You are her boyfriend, not her dad. Your partner should be someone that is your peer and who treats you with respect, not someone you parent. I'm sorry, but you won't fix this woman. She doesn't want to be fixed. Her life is exactly how she wants it. All she has to do to keep everything that way is occasionally tell you that she will change. She acknowledged it and said that we are good for each other because I keep her grounded. No, you are good for her because you ground her. She is bad for you because she is a narcissist who treats you horribly. Because she is a narcissist, she assumes that if it's good for her, it's good for everyone. And yes, I love this person. That is not a good enough reason to stay with someone who treats you and everyone around you like crap. She sounds like a terrible bully. Can you imagine what would happen to your children if you had a family with her? Do you want her leaving them on the side of the road or going off on them? Oh, frick. You just painted a horrible picture. I'm sorry you're in this position, my friend. I wish I had something more uplifting to say, but you do have the power to leave. You do not need her consent. I can understand that it always hurts when we cut ties with someone we love, but it gets better as time goes on. And it also frees you to eventually find someone who is a nice person and who actually loves you back. Posted by user DeafBaby456, titled, Am I the a-hole for telling everyone exactly why I'm getting divorced? My ex and I have one child together. We found out during my pregnancy that our child would be deaf and wouldn't qualify for the surgery that some deaf people are able to get due to a combination of problems. While the external issue is a fluke, the internal issue is apparently something that I always had a 25% chance of passing down to a child. Not to toot my own horn, but once I learned this, I made an effort to start connecting with the deaf community in my area and learn ASL. He did not. And while he stayed for the birth, he moved in with his brother right after dropping me off at my home. I own the house, and did before I met him, so it's not part of the divorce. He was nice enough to give me 2 months' worth of a cleaning service and a gift card to Grubhub. Thanks, husband, that's really cool. He ended up telling everyone that I am the reason he doesn't see our child, and that I filed for divorce because I overreacted. The truth is that I have sole custody because he cried in court that he couldn't deal with the baby and wanted to just pay support. While I did file, it was because he abandoned me and said so many horrible things that I couldn't get over. I have text messages he sent me, which he says that he wouldn't have married me if he knew that we would produce problems, and that he couldn't handle raising a... Oh, that's not a nice word. The only thing wrong with her is her hearing. I don't want my child to grow up in a home where she's hated. I was starting to hear all sorts of crap from my family and his, who started to take his side because divorce isn't really a thing here. So I took action. I made a social media post publishing the text messages so that people would finally see the truth. I'm now getting calls and messages for making a private issue public and parental alienation. Am I the a-hole? I think it goes without saying that absolutely not the a-hole for this, but there is a few caveats here that I think convince them to make this post. The big one for me is living in a town where divorce really isn't a thing. I imagine the culture there isn't too accepting or inviting of this, and if you can point a finger at someone, they will all dogpile on that person and shame them. Obviously, that's my view of it, that's how I'm perceiving why she thinks she's the a-hole, because these people won't look at reason. And unless they have the receipts, they have these text messages that this guy has sent her and the crying in court and everything, unless they have the full picture, they're going to take his side because he's the one getting broken up with, even though he's the one that initiated it. I don't get why family law has to be so messy and disgusting. Like, I would never go into it myself after hearing stories from my mother. Family law is, it's brutal. It's brutal. This is just another classic case of family law going to court and being messy. So I side with OP, they're not the a-hole. Screw that guy for walking out on his daughter. Not the a-hole. This guy has no business smearing you and damaging your reputation. You did what you had to do to set the record straight, and nobody can fault you for that. Hey OP, I've no idea where you're from, but if you're in the US, you can sue for slander and defamation of character. He is clearly doing both. You could get some money to help your child, whether that's paying to go to a school for the deaf, hiring an ASL aide, or paying for surgery if that's something you and or your child is interested in. But also not the a-hole. Your ex is a major gaping a-hole, however. They say that's what the child support is for. I'm saving as much of it as possible for future education costs. I just want to take a moment to say a huge kudos to you for making the effort to connect with the deaf community in your area and learn ASL for your daughter. I'm a graduate student studying sign language linguistics, and a lot of hearing parents of deaf children don't understand how vitally important it is for their kids to be exposed to sign language from as young an age as possible. You may already know this, but deaf kids who are exposed to sign language from birth have better outcomes in a huge variety of developmental milestones, including literacy in English, math, memory, spatial reasoning. The list goes on and on. Not to mention the huge differences it makes to feel loved and supported by your mum. Thank you for doing what's best for your daughter, where many parents don't make the effort to. I know it will mean the world to her as she grows up. Posted by user Underwater Karma. Titled, Am I the a-hole for bailing on a hike when an unfit person came along? Apologies for the length, that's what he said, but here goes. I'm an avid mountain trail hiker, and have been trying to get some friends to come on one of my favorite hikes. It's an almost 2,000 feet elevation gain, 8 miles round trip, but has a huge payoff and vista at the top. It's a very challenging hike, but this is an athletic group who could handle it. Last Saturday, we had the hike planned. I sent everyone a prep list, footwear, sun protection, water, snacks, etc. When everyone showed up at the trailhead, one of the girls had brought along a friend I'd never met, and it was clear she was not going to do well on the hike. She brought nothing. No hat for sun protection, no water, no snacks, was wearing Tiva-style sandals, and extremely overweight. The sandals alone were a disqualifier. This is a rocky climb, not a walk through the woods. I tried to be political and said, I don't think this is going to work, and stressed the advanced difficulty of the hike and the importance of proper footwear and hydration. I didn't mention anything about her weight, specifically avoided it in fact, and yet I was immediately accused of fat shaming and assuming a heavy person can't be physically fit. This hike had disaster written all over it. There was just a 0% chance of it being a pleasant day, so I eventually said that I just didn't want to ruin anyone else's day, and I left. I had "You're a dick" on my phone before I was out of the parking lot. This was 9 a.m. At 5:30 p.m., I get a text from one of the guys with a photo of the entire group sitting in an emergency room. Text said, "Dude, this has been a fudging nightmare." I got the story the next day that the out-of-shape girl couldn't hike more than a few hundred yards without needing to stop to rest, had drank all of her friend's water before getting halfway on the trail, and when told, "We're almost halfway," sat down and started crying, saying she wanted to go back. Long story short, on the downhill, she fell and gashed her leg pretty badly and had to be helped to keep walking, resulting in another guy falling and spraining his ankle. Hours later, they made it back to the cars, and everyone went to the ER to support the 2 injured people. Now, nearly a week later, half the group has been telling me how right I was, that we all should have known to call it off, but the other half is still calling me a jerk. One said I bailed when they needed me the most. So, am I the a-hole? I 100% knew this was going to go badly. So knowing that, should I have hung around to help my friends through the inevitable hardship? Or was I right to say, you're on your own with this terrible decision? I think there's 2 schools of people in this situation. There's people that are going to avoid the situation because they can see it coming, but I think there's also people that stick around and help because they know these people would be screwed without their help, and they bring additional supplies to make up for that because they know what's going to happen. I don't think either schools of thought are wrong in this decision. I think either way you would be not the a-hole. It's just this one, the way you went about it made it a lot worse for these people. I personally would probably do the same thing you did, OP. I'm not sticking around for that. That's an entire day wasted just to have an inevitable outcome happen anyway. Everyone else had the decision not to go through with the hike. They did it anyway. It could have resulted in the death of someone, because hiking is nothing to mess around with. Who knows? It didn't this time. They were lucky. I still hold to the fact that OP is not the a-hole. Been there, done that. Had to bail on a hike in the Sierra because my partner clearly hadn't trained for it as much as he said he had. A couple of days in, we were already a day behind schedule. You were, in fact, there when they needed you most, right at the beginning. They chose to not listen to you. Thanks. That actually helps. Absolutely mind-blowing that this person thought they could do an 8-mile hike with no gear and hadn't physically prepared for it. The people calling you a jerk are just as delusional. They were more afraid of coming off as being fat-phobic than stating the reality, in which the outcome someone could get physically hurt, and they did. You did the right thing, OP. Mileage doesn't necessarily equal difficulty. We have a lot of long, flattish loops around me that can totally be hiked in sandals or biked by beginners. On some trails, I can do a long hike with no prep and minimal equipment. There is some steep, short trails where I struggle because it's 3 miles of rock scramble. It's possible this girl was in shape, but just clueless at how difficult the terrain and elevation gains made the distance. As someone who is out of shape, women's size 20 pants/XXL fat, and does enjoy a nice hike, you can damn well bet I research where my friends are going before deciding to join. She knew her body better than anyone else, and should have done the research. At the very least, wearing proper shoes and bringing water would go a long way in ensuring she could make it. And if I got there, and someone more experienced was like, "Hey, you dressed wrong for this FYI, I would uninvite myself, wish them well, maybe plan to meet up later and hit up a less difficult trail in the area." Fat doesn't equal out of shape, although personally I am out of shape. But showing up ill-prepared does equal a disaster waiting to happen. Posted by user ComplexInside363. Titled, "Am I the a-hole for telling my wife that she shouldn't be worried about delivering a big baby because my mother did it 3 times with no problem?" We had an ultrasound last week. Our son measured over 8 pounds, even though my wife was only 36 weeks. She was told that our baby could be a 10-pounder and was upset because her doctor advised her to mentally prep for a C-section if he ends up being that big. She's also worried about having to deliver him vaginally if a C-section isn't required because he will be so large. She has been upset about it for days, and I told her that I thought she was worrying way too much since my mother gave birth to me and my 2 brothers with no issue, and we all weighed over 9 pounds. She even did it naturally. That apparently was the wrong thing to say, and she had a breakdown. I was told I was unsupportive for telling her that she shouldn't be worried instead of acknowledging her concerns, which I don't get. Those scans, from what I've read, aren't even that accurate. So it's not worth getting upset over when they could be wrong, and even if they aren't, there's nothing that can be done about it. The baby is going to grow as much as it grows. I still suggested that she speak to my mum about her experience, because I knew that she'd assure her that it wasn't as bad as she was expecting. She said she didn't want to speak to my mum, but I asked my mum to call her anyway when she was still sulking. She also got upset over this. I was only trying to help her and stop her from worrying, and the best way to do that, I thought, was by pointing out my mum's experience with big babies. Edit, I just want to clarify that my mum is smaller than my wife, so that is why I thought it would make her more comfortable. I just feel like he's not getting the hint that she doesn't want to speak to the mum, and he continues to be like, "My mum did it, she survived, it's fine, her body could take it, my mum could do it, why don't you want to listen to my mum? My mum knows what to do, listen to my mum." It's like a fever dream. This husband's just a crazy lunatic, just raving at her. I can see why the wife is so upset, but, obviously I can't empathize, I can't have kids myself, but I sure as hell wouldn't want a C-section or to deliver someone vaginally that's over 9 pounds. Jesus Christ. That's a big baby, that's an entire football coming out of there, no thank you. OP, you're the a-hole, stop pressuring her. You're the a-hole. Every woman's body is different. Every woman's uterus, cervix, and vagina is different. Every woman's pain tolerance is different. Not everyone can push out a 10-pounder, and all you're doing is comparing her to your mother. Jesus frickin' Christ. Pick up a book and learn how to be supportive of your pregnant wife. If the doctor told you that you were going to take a solid 10-pound crap, would you be worried? Other men have done it just fine. Smaller men, even. Here, talk to one of them on the phone. It's just the motivational advice I need. Oh my god, you really survived a 10-pound crap? You're a war hero, thank you. You're the a-hole. Hugely. Just because one woman had a certain experience does not mean it will be easy for your wife, and it's certainly not nothing to worry about. Instead of supporting her and acknowledging her feelings, you basically just told her they weren't valid. Giving birth for the first time is frightening, and knowing about potential complications makes it even more so. Then you got your mummy to intervene, even though your wife explicitly asked you not to. You have a lot of growing up to do, and fast. I'm an Amazon, and my son, 10.5 pounds, I don't know, and I almost died without any warning during labor. Even with an obgyn and a running down the hall, all hands on deck C-section, my tiny, delicate, 6 foot shorter than me, no hips sister-in-law popped out an 11-pound, 8-ounce child naturally. OP is absolutely an a-hole. Same. I'm 5'4", but I come from prime Polish peasant stock. My grandparents were each from families with 10+ surviving children. There was lots of successful childbirth going on, and I was myself 10 pounds at birth. Sorry, Mum. I inherited a birthing pelvis that my obstetrician literally complimented during my prenatal visits. My first child was 9 pounds, my second child was 9.5 pounds. I almost died birthing my second child, because they got stuck. They tilted, and their shoulders jammed at an angle, and the attending doctor called for an emergency C-section when both of our heart rates started to falter and not recover as fast as they should have. I had all the pieces for success, and it still happened to me. Opie said that his wife should be fine because his mother, whose pelvis shape and angle has nothing to do with his wife's pelvis shape and angle, was fine is a ridiculous leap of logic and is not comforting at all. Posted by user Am I the A-hole cousin throwaway? Titled, Am I the a-hole for refusing to apologize to my religious cousin after I told her that she'll be going to hell? Or, I know the title is a little wonky, so please hear me out. Throwaway since some of my family know my main account. So for some background, I, 24 female, am a lesbian. I've been out since I was 17 and my whole family knows. I know that my religious side of the family has a problem with my sexuality, but they haven't really said anything about it to me directly until now. A couple of days ago, I posted a picture of my girlfriend, 25, and I on Facebook. We have only been dating for a couple of months, so this is the first that my extended family is seeing of her. A couple hours after I posted the photo, my super Christian cousin, 29 female, sent me a private message. Basically, she voiced her disgust over the fact that I have a girlfriend and how homosexuality is a sin, etc. At the end of the message, she told me that if I don't change my lifestyle, I'll be going to hell and that it's her duty as a woman of God to warn me. I knew her views were a bit extreme, but I didn't think that she would actually take the time to confront me. Now, when my cousin was 18, she got pregnant and had a son with her high school boyfriend. It was quite the scandal at the time. I responded back to her that she shouldn't be cherry-picking from the Bible as to what counts as a sin and what doesn't. I also said premarital sex is a sin too. I guess I'll be seeing you in hell, and left it at that. My cousin freaked and said how horrible it was of me to call her son a sin. I have received a lot of angry messages from family members. I don't feel bad for what I said, and I think my response is justified. I won't be losing any sleep over what my cousin thinks of me. However, this has made things tense for my mum. My cousin is my mum's sister's kid, and it strained her relationship with that part of the family. My mum doesn't care about what I said, but she wants me to apologize to my cousin to keep the peace. I don't want to apologize, and I told her that. She is a little upset that I won't apologize to appease them. My girlfriend thinks that I'm in the right, but I feel bad that I'm stressing my mum out over this. Am I the a-hole for not just sucking it up and apologizing? Edit. To add some more info, I'm an atheist and don't believe that premarital sex is wrong. I was just trying to use her own logic against her to show that she's wrong and being hypocritical. I doubt that she even cares about that at this point. I showed my mum some of the responses in this thread, and I think she sees things from my point of view now. She told me that she was sorry for asking me to apologize in the first place. I'm going to take some of your advice and only clarify to her that I didn't mean that her son was a sin, just that her actions were, according to what she believes in. I will most definitely not be apologizing to her though. Thank you for your kind words, and I'll give an update here if my cousin even responds to my message. Not the a-hole. You weren't calling her child a sin, you called her actions a sin because that's what she did to you. You were right. She shouldn't cherry pick, but she's self-important and homophobic, and that Bible is her shield. As long as she uses the Bible, she's always right. I would personally try to keep the peace, but that's a me thing, and I would advise you to not bend, because she will pull this again. Why is it everyone who quotes from the Bible always forgets the first commandment? Not the a-hole. AITA, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. It's the umbrella commandment. I'm not familiar with the Bible. What does thou shalt have no other gods before me have to do with this? It's been a while, but I think they're referring to when Jesus was asked what the most important commandment was. If memory serves, love your neighbor as yourself. Essentially the golden rule, as I understand. Not the a-hole. I want to say sick burn, but it's not even a burn. It's just straight up the truth. I bet your cousin doesn't even keep Sabbath and wouldn't stone her daughter if she's not a virgin on her wedding either. Christians are pretty much without fail hypocrites and put way too much emphasis on gay people. Good for you for calling her out. I was raised, and am still being raised, in a lenient religious family, so I never followed the Sabbath and just don't understand why that is so important. Not that it matters much to me, I'm not really religious myself at this point, just trying to figure things out for myself. But my dad has emphasized openly to me and my older brother that we shouldn't be ashamed to look at graphic images. Most Christians are super religious in my opinion. It's rare to not see one to try to force it down your throat or try and quote the Bible to belittle you. Posted by user deleted his account. Titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my boyfriend's mother that her meet cute story is highly disturbing? I've been with my boyfriend for 2.5 years, and I am very aware that his parents don't approve of me, but we've always managed a cordial relationship. The other night we had dinner with him, and his sister and 9-year-old niece were there. His sister was commenting on how their parents never told them how they met. His mother ended up telling the whole story. She met her husband while she was his subordinate at work, and he harassed her. They ended up cheating on his fiancée together, and when she tried to break it off, he blackmailed her with her naked pictures. She cut up his fiancée's wedding gown as a prank, and he threatened to get her arrested, and then just decided to marry her instead. Everyone at the table was laughing, but I guess I looked horrified because she called me out. I said that was highly disturbing and abusive. She said, oh, I was being dramatic. I don't know, because everyone else thought it was funny, and it was almost 30 years ago. I told her if I ever have children, I don't want them to hear that, and she was very cold for the rest of the evening. My boyfriend says that I had no right to say that to his parents. Your boyfriend has no right to say that to you, Jesus Christ. Is he going to model himself after that woman? After those two being disturbing and abusive to each other? Is that a path he really wants to walk down? Is he going to do that to you, OP? I can't believe they're so accepting of this story, and it's just a fun little family sitting around the table. Let's laugh about all the disgusting stuff we did in the past. Hey, it's hilarious now. I really don't think the fact that it was almost 30 years ago excuses their actions. It's not acceptable. OP, not the a-hole, I would very much question the motives and actions of the boyfriend from this point forward. There's nothing cute about that story, and even 30 years ago, that sort of thing wasn't funny, not the a-hole. That her boyfriend doesn't get it is also highly disturbing. I would be worried about what kind of cute pranks he might have in store, not the a-hole. For real, massive red flag if he thinks there's nothing wrong with that. Maybe he needs time to process it. If my parents told me that as their how we met story, I'd need to have a lie down before I could even begin to dissect it all. I mean, maybe. I wouldn't go as far as to immediately break up with him just because he didn't react immediately, but it's really something to keep a very close eye on. Not the a-hole. harassment, blackmailing, damage to someone else's property, cheating. I don't know what part is cute about this entire crapstorm, and I don't know if you and your boyfriend are together for 2.5 years, must be serious, and you don't want your hypothetical children, why that would be an issue. You know you would have children, and up until now, you seem sure that you and your boyfriend have long-term goals. Then it should be clear right off the bat that you don't want this disturbing story to reach your children, not the a-hole 100%. Not the a-hole, but I want to know what your boyfriend thinks of the story, cause it's a big oof. And OP said, my boyfriend doesn't like his father very much, so he's critical of the blackmailing, but he acts like cutting up the dress was justified because she was young, though she was actually the same age as I am now. Red flag! The fact that your boyfriend approves of that part of this situation makes me really worried. If it's okay for his dad to sexually harass his mum, and his mum to cut up a wedding dress, what would be okay to do to you, or to his sister's partners, or your children? I'm very concerned about this. Posted by user 4timelucky. Titled, Am I the a-hole for not giving my pregnant friend my old baby items after I found out she's selling them? I, female 32, just had my third and final kid. He's 5 months old now. I have loads of baby things from my older kids, and also some things I bought brand new. My friend Tina is currently pregnant with her first. I offered her all my unused items along with everything my baby grows out of by the time she's due in December. She likes to shop in second-hand stores, so my baby items certainly weren't beneath her. Baby stuff is so expensive, and when she offered me money for them, I declined, saying I was happy to help her out and see them go to a good home. The items offered included cots, swings, bouncers, clothes, breast pumps, and lots more. Last weekend, I dropped my first lot of stuff over as I didn't want to have clutter in my house till December. I brought over all my 0 to 6 month clothes, some still new in packaging, the breast pump, one swing, and a baby monitor. The next day, I got a Facebook notification that someone I knew posted items for sale on Marketplace. It was Tina, selling everything I dropped over. I was livid and called her to explain herself. She told me she didn't see the big deal. She was going to sell them and use the money towards brand new items. I saw red, went over to her house and took everything back. I told her she wouldn't be getting everything else I was going to give her either. The way I see it, I gave her those things to be helpful and would have sold them myself if she hadn't taken them. Why should she profit off of me? Later that day, her boyfriend calls me and screams down the phone about how disgusting I am to do that to Tina, while she's pregnant, and how crappy of a friend I am. But I'm digging my feet in. I really don't think what I did was a dick move. If anything, she's the a-hole for selling my kindness. So Reddit friends, am I the a-hole? Should I be bringing this stuff back to her? ETA, I would have donated a lot of the clothes and smaller items to our local charity for the homeless and single parents in need of aid, and only sold the bigger items such as the cot. My rage was her taking away from them and making money out of it. ETA 2, when she offered me money for them, she said, "Oh, you're so kind for giving me all this for the baby. It's so hard to baby shop with a pandemic. I should really give you something for it." I told her no, and I was just happy to help her out, and she thanked me for making it easier for her. Had she told me that her intent was to sell them, I wouldn't have given her anything, and instead offered to buy her something off her baby registry. Dude, screw Tina. What's her problem? And the fact that she's only sorry that she got caught. She's like, "Oh, you caught me. Haha, what's the big deal? Please don't take these away." No, Tina. That's scummy behavior. How could you do that? She knew she was going against the best wishes of her friend. Some of those items were new in packaging, yet she wants to sell them to buy more new things. Are you negative brain cells today, Tina? What's going on? You can't blame the baby on this one. This is of your own volition. I'm gonna say OP is not the a-hole, and very much so justified in their actions. Not the a-hole. That is wildly tactless on your friend's part. Accepting gifts just to immediately resell is tacky and rude. Especially since baby stuff is so expensive, and you are being very generous to give so much of it freely. Not just rude, but trashy. Plus, she advertised the gifted items in a public forum, Facebook. It's as though she didn't see anything wrong with selling gifted items, or didn't care enough about the giver to give a damn that it was rude. Not the a-hole. If she were even considering selling some of the items, she could have brought that up in the discussion. This crap happened to my mum a lot. The thing was, my parents had me and my little sis before any of their friends had theirs. That meant that when we were like 6 and 8, all of their friends got their kids. Now, my mum is very kind and offered them the old items, and they all took something. Now, the problem was that she found ads of items that she found very familiar on our version of Craigslist. Now she only lends items so crap like this can't happen. Not the a-hole. I used to give my daughter's outgrown clothes to a sister-in-law for my niece. I never saw my niece wear even one of those items. Sister-in-law was either selling them or throwing them away. I found a friend who had a younger daughter and started giving the clothes to her. Every time I ran into her, her daughter was wearing something we had passed on. Give your stuff to someone who will use it. Also, usually the kids are super proud if they like you. We passed down a lot of my stuff to one of my cousins that has 2 young daughters. They are always super proud to wear something that was mine when I see them, and they show it off. Exactly. We get a lot of hand-me-downs from my aunt and uncle, because my cousin is a couple years older. My daughter is always excited to get and wear them since she adores my cousin. Posted by user Disturbing Dinner Boyfriend. Titled, Am I the a-hole for kicking out my boyfriend after he humiliated me at dinner in front of my employers? I, 22 female, recently started working as a private tutor for a wealthy family. The job pays very well and really improved my financial situation. I'm fortunate to have secured this role, but it's still the beginning stages and I'm not trying to screw things up. Last week, the couple invited me to dinner and said that I could bring someone along. I told my boyfriend about this and asked if he wanted to come with me. He said yes. I warned him that these people can be a bit snobby, so I expect him to show good manners. So the dinner happened and it started off well. I noticed my boyfriend was nervous, but didn't think much of it. Then I noticed that he was drinking more than usual. He rarely drinks. I kept giving him looks to hint that he should stop drinking. He was completely oblivious and behaving like a nervous wreck. After a short while, he got so drunk that he started talking absolute crap. He looked at me from across the table, pointed at me, and asked if I was single. For some reason, they actually found that amusing, so that was a bit of a relief. I quickly changed the topic. It gets worse. This is so painful to type out. He started telling them about our sex life. He said that last week I had a sneezing fit while I was on top of him, and that it felt good, and that he's become a changed man since then. Oh my god! No, my god! It was dead silent, and he was the only one giggling to himself. I apologized profusely to the couple, and went to the restroom with him. I was so fudging upset and angry, and told him that he's an embarrassment. He kept saying that he felt sick, and then threw up. I went back to the dining table and explained to the couple that my boyfriend felt sick and decided to get some fresh air. I was so upset that I didn't stay around for more than 10 minutes. They didn't seem too appalled, but it doesn't matter anyway. When we went home, I decided to kick him out. I told him that I don't even want to see his face at the moment. He went to crash at a friend's place, and that's where he's been staying ever since. He keeps begging me for forgiveness, but I don't care. My friends found out, and they all agreed that I'm a huge a-hole for kicking out my boyfriend. They said that I overreacted, don't care about his well-being at all, and that he deserves someone who cares. Am I the a-hole? This just reads like a typical relationship dispute, maybe a little bit more intense than usual, but, you know, if someone was going to tell me this story, I'd be like, yep, no, that's normal, that checks out. Perhaps a little over the top to kick him out when he's drunk. It's not always the best to be walking outside by yourself drunk. Unaccompanied, you can get yourself in some trouble. But, you know, he willingly got himself drunk. He was talking mad smack to the rest of the people at that occasion, and He embarrassed you. It was hilarious, but he embarrassed you a lot, and I don't blame you for feeling that way. I can't fault you, OP. I don't think you're the a-hole for these actions. This is his fault. Not the a-hole. His behavior is unacceptable, even at a dinner with your friends. With your boss, it's unforgivable. Does he have a drinking problem? That wasn't answered. Sounds like he was drinking to steady his nerves and didn't realize how low his alcohol tolerance was, which would explain his behavior. It's an explanation for why, but it still doesn't excuse what he did. What if this affected her relationship with her employer? She defo has a right to be mad about it. Who gets drunk like that in front of their partner's boss? Someone who is really, really nervous? I did that around girlfriends' families when I was younger for the same reason. I never said anything as wildly inappropriate as OP's boyfriend, but I kind of understand why he drank. One shouldn't drink when they're nervous. It's a good way to create an unhealthy coping mechanism. I mean, yeah, but 21-year-olds don't always make the best decisions. Hallelujah. Oh, I know, but in case anyone read that and went, huh? Maybe I should start doing that. You know? Come on, a few bevies for the nerves. It helps out, right? It's pretty good. No, not the a-hole. I wouldn't tolerate someone close to me sharing intimate details with anyone, let alone someone who should see me as a professional. Why would he even get drunk at this thing? Posted by user Am I the A-hole Sister 628. Titled, Am I the A-hole for making my sister walk home? My sister is 18 and can't drive yet. I'm 21 and have my own car. She's been seeing a guy for a few months now, who my parents don't know about, so she often asks me to drive her to his house. We tell my parents I'm dropping her off to a friend's or something. I am mostly fine with this, but the last 4 or 5 times when I went to pick her up, she wouldn't pick up her phone or would ignore my texts just to spend some extra time with her boyfriend. I would call her and tell her I was 5 minutes away, and she would say okay, and then leave me waiting outside his house for 15 minutes to maximize her time with him. I warned her if she kept doing this, I would just leave and she could walk home. Last time, I waited outside the boyfriend's house for 20 minutes before knocking on his door, which she got really annoyed at me for doing. Today, this happened again. When I dropped her off, I informed her I'd come and get her at 5 p.m. At 5, I called 3 times and she ignored me. So after 15 minutes, I texted her I was leaving and went back home because I was fed up. She finally called after another 20 minutes and said she was sorry and asked if I could come get her. I said no. She could walk home, around 30 to 40 minutes, call Uber, get her boyfriend to drop her off, or call mum or dad. I had told her multiple times not to pull this crap, and she had agreed. She walked home, and now she's really ticked at me. We live in a safe area, and the walk is through suburbia. No highways, and it was broad daylight. Am I the a-hole? Well, I was going to point to an possible everyone sucks here situation, but the fact that they do live in a safe area, no highways to cross in broad daylight, that just tips it into the not the a-hole category here for me. It's very obvious that it's not the a-hole, but I want to think outside the box. Maybe, they think they're an a-hole because their parents would come down on them hard for not protecting the sister if she were to walk out by herself. There's crazy scenarios that Jeffrey Dahmer's going to be walking this suburbia and he's going to kidnap her. Who knows what can happen? It's crazy out in those streets. But yeah, classic case of she's spending so much time with her boyfriend. She loves him so much. We're going to maximize the time together. And then he probably gets on Snapchat to another girl afterwards. Who knows? It's young romance. It's not always the case. It's just a common occurrence. OP, not the a-hole. You gave her fair warning. She kept wasting your time, and you did exactly what you said you would. Yep, I absolutely hate people who aren't grateful for rides. I'm not even old enough to drive, but there's just no reason to not be on time when someone is taking time out of their day to take you. If she wants to maximize her time, she can literally just stay longer. Not the a-hole. Exactly. Just organize the ride later if it's that big of a deal. Maximizing her time shouldn't translate to wasting OP's time. Girl isn't even maximizing her time. She was on borrowed time and deeply in debt. Now that card is cancelled. Not the a-hole. You are already helping her out a lot, and you have discussed her wasting your time. I think you should stand your ground here at least for a while. Not the a-hole, but why is she hiding her boyfriend if she's 18? Asian parents, Lamau. I see. I used to go out from a girl whose parents were from Hong Kong. She was born in Ireland. Parents broke up when she was young, so her father moved out. Anyhow, she was petrified he'd find out we were going out. Wow, I guess that explains why I saw nothing strange about an 18-year-old having a secretive relationship from her parents until this comment. I am also Asian. I'm Asian as well, and still hid my relationships even though I'm already 23. I think I literally would only tell my parents about my significant other if it ever gets to the point where we would get married. Posted by user First Love Immortal. Titled, Am I the a-hole for naming my firstborn son after my late boyfriend and not my husband, even though it's a tradition in his family to name the firstborn son after the father? Let's get this out of the way first. My husband and I are currently separated, and we are getting divorced. I'm going to file in a week or two, and we have been living separately since I was 6 months pregnant. Why, you ask? A pretty common occurrence. He was having an affair with a woman, and he gave me the "I love you, but I'm not in love with you" talk after I caught him. No, he didn't confess. I was suspicious about his late-night office hours and tracked him down at his office, only to find him missing. I waited for 3 hours, all alone, and then I saw them both arriving at the office. She was hanging on to him, they kissed inside his car, and that's where I confronted both of them. She was crying, and he went on to console her, saying it wasn't her fault. That was 4 months ago, and I moved out of the house heavily pregnant. I moved to a friend's house that he didn't know about, and for the next 4 months, I didn't have any contact with him. My choice. I didn't inform him when I went into labor. My sister and best friend were there for me. I gave birth to my healthy baby boy, and named him after my childhood sweetheart Daniel, my first love, who sadly passed away when he was 20 from leukemia. It was the most heartbreaking thing that ever happened to me. It affected me really bad. I lost 40 pounds in a month and had to be hospitalized. I still have a hole in my heart. A part of me was lost forever the day that I lost him. It took immense therapy and counseling to cope with the grief, and I met my husband 6 years later. He was the first guy I fell for after Daniel. We got married 2 years later, and after 3 years of marriage, we got pregnant with our first child. I wanted to wait a few more years, but it was he who pushed for a baby. My husband's name is Felipe, and in his family, the firstborn sons are always named after their father, so we decided to name him Phil. However, after our separation, I started experiencing Daniel's presence around me. I was a mess, but I saw dreams where Dan would talk to me and tell me that everything would be okay. Honestly, I feel like Dan's spirit has helped me heal and gave me strength to cope with the breakdown of my marriage. When my boy was born, I named him Daniel. His middle name was after my grandfather, and I gave him my last name. A month later, I contacted my husband and informed him that his son was born a month ago, and that I was going to file for divorce and to chalk out any visitation if he wanted. I had him blocked everywhere for a month. The same day, I reactivated my Facebook and announced the birth of my son with his full name. My husband called me up crying and furious, and told me that I had no right to name his son after some dead guy that I screwed. His family thinks I'm the devil incarnate, and even my mum thinks I went too far. I'm losing my mind here. Am I the a-hole? To the people wondering, I'm not going to deny my husband a relationship with his son. We'll come to a custody visitation plan once we get a court order. For now, he is free to visit his son whenever he wants. The rest would be his choice. To the people asking me if it was his choice to go no contact, and whether he tried to contact or find me, no, it wasn't his choice, and he did try to find me. But he was informed that I was safe and that I would reach out to him once I was ready. Why did I stay away from him and didn't tell him about the baby for 1 month? My emotions were a wreck, and I didn't want to see him or talk to him. I was incredibly toxic to be around, going through hell mentally, emotionally, and physically. I didn't want anything to do with him. I also wanted the first month of my son's life to be a peaceful bonding experience for me and my son. Was it for my mental health? Yes. Was it selfish? Yes. To remind everyone, Daniel isn't just my dead ex, my former boyfriend, my old lover, my ex-boyfriend. His memory is the reason I pushed myself to eat healthy and be alive to survive my pregnancy and give birth to my son. He is my spirit angel looking after me from heaven, and that's why I named my son after him. He was taken from me by fate, but he will always be there looking out for me and my baby. I think this is a very clear case of not the a-hole. I can see why the ex-husband's parents are angry and think she's the a-hole, but that's a them problem. That's not an OP problem. So in their eyes, OP is the a-hole, but I think coming from a voice of reason, a place of logic, OP is definitely not the a-hole in this situation. I see them having no reason to stay with the husband, no reason to even really reconnect like that. Definitely give him, some custody of the son, let him see the son, but I think you write off your obligations to have your family name with the kid, have that child named after you. I think, you throw yourself under the bus when you cheat like that. That's unfortunate for him. It's unfortunate for OP too, but he's got to accept that. And I think in this situation, OP is definitely not the a-hole. He cheated and left you while you were pregnant. Of course, it's still his son, but giving your baby the name of the man who cheated on you while you were carrying his son is asking too much. Daniel is a lovely name, and I'm sorry for your loss. Please don't think you were selfish. You were not. Your ex lost all rights to that silly name tradition when he cheated. His fault and his problem, not yours. Congratulations on your baby boy. Plus, Daniel is a much better name than Phil. Apologies to anyone that is named Phil. Suggestions for your Facebook page and relatives. I won't name my son after a cheater. Naming is for honoring people with integrity only. Posted by user League Aggravating. Titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my sister and brother-in-law told you so for being dumb parents? My sister and brother-in-law are pseudo-hippies. They have an 8-year-old daughter named Lee. My niece had this boneheaded idea to shave her head, and my sister and brother-in-law had no problem with it. It was self-expression. They asked me to do it since I cut my own son's hair and buzzed my own. I refused. I told them she would be mocked and teased for looking like a boy. Kids look androgynous, and hair and dress are usually the giveaways as to what gender they are. They turned it into a political issue about gender equality, and I told them they can do what they want and believe what they want, but this isn't a political issue. She will be mistaken for being a boy with a buzzed head, and she won't like it. They buzzed her head anyway, a 2 all around, and she looks like my son, except they let her put blue dye. A week later, she has been bawling her eyes out and wants a wig and won't go outdoors without a hat. People confuse her for being a boy, even if she dresses like a girl. Of course, my sister and her husband are making it into a political issue. I told them they were wrong, and now their kid is upset, and they are stupid-ass parents. Also, they screwed up the buzz too. The line is all messed up, and there are uneven patches, but they insist that it's the world that's wrong, and not them. You know what, I don't blame OP for this one. I'm gonna say they're not the a-hole. You can say it's everyone sucks here if you want, that can be your opinion. But I definitely think the parents are the ones to blame in this situation. Screw them for putting that on their kid, convincing their kid that was a good thing to do. They should have more common sense and have listened to OP. And now this could be a budding insecurity that flowers into, crippling depression or something later down the line. We obviously don't have all the facts in this story, we have a biased view from OP, but I honestly wouldn't put it past that little girl to be insecure about their hair and their identity now. Obviously that's a stretch, but that's my opinion on things. What do you guys think? I think not the a-hole. Everyone sucks here, apart from Lee. Lee is entitled to have her hair how she wants. This is not your business. However, Her parents should have explained to her that there are a lot of people out there with your mindset who will judge her and mistake her for a boy before she committed to it. If she then wanted to go ahead with it, that would be Lee's choice, not yours, not her parents. Edit. In response to some replies, Opie is an a-hole not because they refuse to take part, that's their choice, but saying I told you so and insisting it's a terrible idea whilst calling them dumb parents is absolutely not constructive. Maybe if Lee was told to think about the consequences and she still wanted to go ahead and have her hair cut, she would have been more prepared for the outcome. As others have said in replies to this comment, it doesn't always end in tears when they've been sat down and had it explained to them how people may react. You know that Lee is an 8-year-old, right? They're not always 100% rational and logical. It's part of the job of a parent to prevent kids from making choices they will regret. You're aware that hair grows back, right? Yeah, and trauma heals with time. But I bet this little girl is going to remember being so embarrassed she wouldn't leave the home for quite a while. Not the a-hole. How the hell is this turned into OP's fault? They refused to take part because they knew how it will go, and they told it. Sister refused to consider, did what girl wanted to do, and now are upset. The whole situation can be blamed on parents, and only parents. If OP helped with cut, the result would not have been the same. Then parents would blame OP for not saying this happens. It's the same thing when parents think giving their child unique names to feel special, and then they are bullied through school. Lesson learned for everyone. Posted by user GloomyAd9473, titled, Am I the a-hole for embarrassing my son in front of his friends today? My 12-year-old son asked if he could go to the park and play hockey with his friends. The park has a rink. I asked him who was going to be there, adult-wise, and he said none. So I said nope. He asked why. I told him because last time they played unsupervised, they ended up playing without their helmets. Hockey is fudging dangerous without helmets and without an adult. I told him I didn't completely trust him. It's not personal, I just don't trust a bunch of unsupervised 12-year-old boys. He was very upset and promised he would wear one while playing hockey. He said, Dad, I would not lie to you like that. So I told him he could and dropped him off. All the kids were wearing helmets. I told him I would call him before I picked him up in an hour, but I lied. I just showed up. Half the kids weren't wearing helmets. My son was one of the kids. When he saw me coming towards the rink, he skated over to put on his helmet. I told him not to bother, and we were going. He claimed that he had his helmet on for just a moment. I told him that I didn't care and to get into the car. He asked why. I told him he had 3 seconds to get his stuff or else. 3 seconds passed, and I came into the rink and he started packing up. I grabbed him by his jersey and made him leave the rink. Some of his friends were laughing. He cried in the car that I humiliated him in front of his friends. I asked him if it was worth not wearing a fudging helmet. Edit. My son is still giving me a bit of a silent treatment. I told him I was angry because I didn't want to see him get his teeth knocked. He asked me if I was being serious, and that wasn't even a funny thing to say. He still insists he was only without his helmet for a few seconds because he was hot and he didn't want to talk about it anymore. Edit. When I gave my son 3 seconds to pack up, he just stood there defying me. So I had no choice but to outdo him, which is why I grabbed him by the jersey. It was quite easy dragging him because he was still on skates. Edit. One of his friends came over to pick him up to go bowling. When my son came down the stairs, his friend sarcastically told him not to forget his helmet. I don't know whether that was a dig at him or me. I'm gonna go with not the a-hole on this one. That's just proper parenting, and, sometimes you do have to embarrass your kids to get them to learn their lesson. I'd love to know what other forms of parenting are actually effective and get the son to learn his lesson here without being embarrassed, but it's a 12-year-old boy. He was obviously stroking his ego by standing his ground, trying to look cool in front of his friends. You've got to bring them back down to reality at that point. You just have to. He wasn't abusive. He didn't, hurt this son. He didn't do anything besides embarrass him and show him that, hey, I told you you can't play. We're going now. This is what happens when you don't follow the rules. I think that's completely fair on OP's end. I don't think he's an a-hole for doing so. He'd be an a-hole for not doing so. What is that? You're not punishing your kid? That would be the a-hole action. He certainly is going to think you're the a-hole. The only thing I'd say was a little unnecessary was grabbing him by the jersey, but otherwise not the a-hole. Heh. He can just tell his son that not wearing a helmet when he was a kid is what caused him to grow up and be so mean and embarrassing, not the a-hole. When my brother was 15, we had gone on a cruise to Bermuda. My brother met some new friends on the ship, and they left the ship in the middle of the night. My 15-year-old brother was roaming Bermuda with strangers. Mind you, this was 2004, so before 15-year-olds widely had cell phones until 3 a.m. All my mum knew from the ship log was that he wasn't on the ship. He was in a lot of huge trouble. The very next day while they were on the island, my brother wandered off. My mum was ticked, and when she spotted him, my 5'4" mum had her 5'10" son by his scruff, dragging him back over with the rest of us. My point is, kids who break rules are never too old, nor are their egos or reputations ever too fragile to grab them by the ear, scruff, jersey, back under your watchful eye when they are deliberately breaking the rules, and even more seriously, when they are putting their life at risk. Kids think they are invincible. They are not, and they need to know that there are consequences that they don't want to repeat for when they put their lives in danger before the consequence actually becomes irrevocable. Posted by user PureDark123, titled, Am I the a-hole for cutting my nephew's hair? My nephew, 16, is a female-to-male transgender person. His mum thinks it's just a phase. He came out 4 years ago. He's a good kid, and since I'm a hairdresser, he asked me to cut his hair for his birthday. He had long hair, and he hated it. He would confide in me that he didn't feel like himself in his hair, and that he hated looking in the mirror and seeing it. His mum forbid him to cut his hair, and still calls him a she, because how certain she is that it's just a phase. I strongly disagree with her. Her son doesn't even feel comfortable talking about his gender, because she either pretends like she can't hear him, or just tells him it's just a phase, you'll grow out of it soon. So, on his 16th birthday, he came over and I cut his hair for him, giving him a hairstyle of his choice. When she's seen his hair, he cried out of joy and hugged me, telling me he never felt more like himself. He went home and my sister was ticked. She called me yelling, telling me that I ruined her daughter's hair, and that I should have never went behind her back to cut her daughter's hair. I simply told her that I didn't do anything that was permanent, and that if later on in nephew's life, he chooses that he wants to grow his hair back out, that he can. Am I the a-hole here? No, I wouldn't think so. The mother sounds very bigoted, and I really do hope that she grows out of her ways, because it's very much not conducive to good mental health, that's for sure. You can do whatever the hell you want. Don't just go forcing that on your kids, that's not right. OP, not the a-hole. Regardless of gender or the situation, any 16-year-old should have autonomy over their own hair. Yeesh. Also, definitely your sister is the a-hole. Exactly. What if OP's nephew was still female and simply wanted short hair, like a pixie cut? It's just plain ridiculous and solely based on the fact OP's sister is massively in denial about her son. Exactly. It's pure transphobia. Next thing we know, she'll be banning him wearing shirts and trousers and insist on dresses and skirts for no reason except that she doesn't want him to express he's actually a boy. It's not like OP secretly signed for medical permission for surgery behind Mum's back. It's hair. Mum is just a transphobe. Phases are normal parts of being a teen, and hair is an easy way to express that. Whether it's anime, punk mohawk, black goth hair, or preppy blonde, or highlights. If she saw it as a phase, she wouldn't have this reaction. She finds it unacceptable for other reasons. My mum let me get pink stripes during my Avril Lavigne phase, and red during my Tim Burton phase. Neither were particularly great style periods, but she recognized that hair grows, clothes stop fitting, and it made me happy. Sometimes, being a parent is going to the store with your kids in Spider-Man costumes in July because it's inconsequential, and it makes them feel fantastic about themselves. Not the a-hole. Would his parents have been upset with him cutting his hair if he wasn't transgender? Anyone can have short hair. It's not a gender quality, and sometimes it's more comfortable to have less maintenance with your hair. Your nephew shouldn't be forced to have long hair if he doesn't want it. He's 16, not 8. His parents shouldn't be dictating what hairstyle he chooses to cut his hair in, when it's his hair to begin. Also, hair grows back. It's not like it's a permanent situation, and can be modified later on to however your nephew prefers. Seems like his mother is also transphobic and unsupportive of her son, and that's not fair to him at all either. Not the a-hole, even if it is just a phase, he won't ever forget how invalidating and dismissive his mother was about his feelings. Good on you for supporting your nephew. This might escalate his mother's behavior, however. Perhaps keep an eye on him. I'll definitely keep an eye on him. I'm even thinking to let him move in if she escalates. I'm so glad he has you in his life, OP. Just knowing that you're there, you validate him, and can give him a safe place is so validating. Thanks for being such a great person and aunt. Obviously not the a-hole. Posted by user Outrageous Taste 839. Titled, Am I the a-hole for using my wife's argument against her when it comes to our child? Throwaway title sounds bad, but hear me out. I have a wife who has birthed our son. Unfortunately, my wife would not let me help name our kid and told me she was the one who created it, thus she gets to name him and she does not care about how I feel. My wife uses this argument all the time and treats me second-rate even when I try to help or speak out my mind on opinion. I'm kind of sick of this, and I tried to have a proper conversation, but wife refused and told me since I did not birth the child, I don't have an opinion on her parenting. So today, my son had a temper tantrum, and my wife told me to fix it because she was busy drinking alcohol. I said no, and told my wife to fix it herself, and that I then told her she birthed the child and that she can parent the child. Wife told me I'm not allowed to parent our child multiple times. I left and played on my console. My wife was furious and yelled at me for not parenting our child and telling me I'm a bad husband for not following her wishes. So, am I the a-hole for using my wife's argument against her when it comes to our child? Well, yes, but she also sucks for starting that in the first place. It's a very childish precedent to set. I don't understand where it came from, or I don't understand why she's saying that. There's perhaps a bit more to the story that we're missing, but purely based on what you've given us here, both of you guys are handling this very poorly. Your communication skills are not quite there. You're not empathizing with each other on a mutual level. It's kind of odd to see. But nonetheless, you guys do what you want, I guess. You both suck here, and I hope it goes well. Everyone sucks here. Your wife is either awful or needs to see a doctor if this is out of character for her pre-pregnancy to rule out PPD. You suck, less than your wife does in this instance if we take her behavior at face value, because at the end of the day, that crying baby is still your child and is still dependent on you and your wife for care. If she's drinking and doesn't move and the baby cries, you still need to take care of him, not play on your console. It is completely unfair to leave your kid hungry or sat in their own crap for an extra 10 minutes while you and your wife both refuse to take responsibility for whatever reason. He doesn't deserve that. This is the answer. Both parents suck for using their child as a pawn in their conflict. Everyone sucks here. It's kind of a question of whether the ends justify the means, though. If the kid was uncomfortable for an additional 5 to 10 minutes, and the result is that the wife realizes that her plan has backfired and allows OP to start parenting as an equal, that's to the benefit of both the OP and the kid. I personally doubt that a single interaction will change her mind, but if he holds firm and makes her reap the results of her astounding selfishness, maybe she will change. Better yet though, they should get to a therapist for sure. Everyone sucks here. You are both acting really immature and irresponsible. You have a child, but you're too busy fighting about who's going to be the parent to properly take care of it. Your child is the one who's going to suffer for it. Posted by user If I Die Before I Skeet, titled, Would I be the a-hole if I told my mum that I didn't want my dog to become a service dog for my brother? Basically, ever since I was like in kindergarten, I've been expected to take care of my oldest brother, who has a seizure disorder and cerebral palsy. A few months ago, I was given a puppy by my grandma since her chihuahuas had a litter. Me and this puppy clicked really well, and my grandma specified that he was only mine and no one else's, since usually the dogs I get end up getting sucked up and becoming the family dog. Since my parents are divorced, this made me happy since I'd be able to take him with me wherever I went, instead of leaving him at one household when I went to the other. Recently, my mum started talking about making my dog a service dog. I got really happy because I assumed she meant for me. I have diagnosed anxiety, however, my parents won't pay for medication since they don't want me getting addicted? She corrected me and said that she meant for my brother. I told her that I didn't want that, since he was my dog. For information, my dog does not like my brother. My brother also definitely does not like dogs. We have to tell him not to kick the dogs because it's his first instinct whenever they get too close just to smell him or lick him. All of our other dogs are large German shepherds who know not to get too close. However, my dog is a friendly and curious chihuahua and is very small. It would not survive a kick from a 25-year-old man. I also told my mum that I wanted him to be my dog and that if he became my brother's service dog, I wouldn't be able to be with my dog as much, as he lives with my mum more days of the week than I do. Also that when I go to college next year, I wouldn't be able to take him with me. Am I the a-hole? Also, sorry for the long rambling. No, I can't see you being the a-hole in this situation. You know, you don't want to put your dog's life at risk. The brother doesn't like dogs in the first place. I don't understand why she thought this was a good idea. And if she's going to think you're an a-hole for that, maybe she's the one that needs a service dog to fix whatever's going wrong in her head. Why would you even think that this was an idea in the first place? Why are none of the other dogs service dogs? Why does his dog have to be a service dog? And chihuahuas, I don't know if chihuahuas make great service dogs. They're a bit too small to really do much, I guess, but, you know, that's my perspective on it. I'm going to say not the a-hole. It's your dog, plus I don't think a chihuahua would make a good service dog. And your brother hates dogs. Also, your mum sounds like they have a major favoritism towards your brother, which is uncool. You need love and affection too. I mean, depending on the type of service, a chihuahua can 100% be a service dog. I imagine, given the disabilities OP listed, that they'd want a seizure alert dog. I don't see why a chihuahua couldn't do that. In fact, some service dogs are better if they're small. Some diabetic alert dogs are carried or worn so they stay close to their owner's mouth and can smell a change in blood sugar. Others, though, need to be bigger. Some people may need a dog to help steady or balance them, or they may need a dog capable of reaching their chest. I've heard of dogs that bang on their owner's chest to help break them out of flashbacks and panic attacks. Of course, any of this would require a lot of training, and the individual personality of the dog is more important than the breed. But with all that being said, in this case, the dog clearly wouldn't make a good service dog for the brother, since the brother doesn't like dogs and could injure or possibly kill it. Seriously not the a-hole? Do not let them take your dog. There's a woman who goes grocery shopping at the same time I do each week, and she has a Chihuahua service dog because of some sort of heart issue. She wears him in a little chest harness, and he barks like a mad demon when she's in danger of passing out. When he barks, she lays on the ground immediately so that she doesn't hurt herself if she falls. The dog weighs like 4 pounds, and his ego is bigger than the Hulk, I swear. Chihuahuas can be service dogs, but OP's dog can't be someone else's service dog because they would never be able to focus on them more than they focus on OP. Having the service dog's attention is important, otherwise they might miss things. Not the a-hole OP. Posted by user ThrowRA382838. Titled, Am I the a-hole for helping my friend get a girl removed from the soccer team? I, 16 female, have a friend named Aisha, 15 female. Aisha is Muslim and wears a hijab to school, which often causes people to give her dirty looks, comments, etc. I don't know why, it's just cloth. Anyway, the worst instance possible was with this girl named Megan, also 15 female. When we were sitting together at lunch, she came up to Aisha and I and told Aisha she dared her to take her hijab off, taunting her, saying she would look so pretty without it. This was with malicious intent because I told her one time, thinking she was just clueless, and wanted to educate her. Then she forcibly tried to remove her hijab. I moved her hand away, and we went to the principal. Instead of getting punishment, Megan made up a sob story about how it would harm her position on some prestigious soccer club that she was in. Fast forward a few days ago, she makes a TikTok that said, when you get called to the principal's office for telling the Muslim girl to take off her do-rag. I was so livid for her. Aisha is very shy and didn't want to seem like a buzzkill, so she asked me personally to email the soccer organization. Well, I did, and she was immediately kicked off, and other organizations in the area were notified of her behavior. Now, all of her friends are in my DMs saying how horrible I am, how I'm an invalid, how I need to take a joke, etc. My parents think I should have stayed out of it, but I think I did the right thing. I think you did the right thing too, OP. She publicly posted on TikTok, showing that she was a racist and that she's cool with doing specifically, disgusting things. She was let off very easy by the principal and should have just chilled from there and learnt her lesson. But obviously, she doubled down, and you took action into your own hands. This is a form of vigilante justice I can get behind. I fully back OP's actions in this ones. That girl needs to be shut down, the soccer organization needs to be notified, and Aisha deserves justice in this situation. OP, not the a-hole. Have you seen the clip where a soccer player lost full coverage with her hijab, and the other women, even opposition, stopped to huddle around her while she fixed it? When there are so many of those women in the world, why would a soccer team want an Islamophobic player? Her own actions got her booted from the club, and for good reason. OP says, I love that video. It made me bawl the first time I saw it, even though that may sound ridiculous. It's not hard to practice human decency. Not the a-hole. What the hell? Where's the joke? People really care more about soccer and TikTok than being a humane person. Seriously, it's honestly gross. Yeah, I might expect it from the girl Megan, but her friends and even OP's parents are giving her grief about it. It's disgusting. This girl Aisha was accosted for wearing an item of clothing, and some other girl without cause proceeded to try and remove the piece of her clothing for no reason other than being malicious. If Megan was so concerned with her standing in soccer, she probably shouldn't baselessly assault people on xenophobic grounds. OP is so not the a-hole here, and apparently has a better grasp on what constitutes unacceptable behavior than even the adults. I'm not surprised that Megan's friends are lashing out because of this. People like Megan are very rarely the lone wolf in their friend groups. They're all a-holes for sure, but it's definitely not a surprise. OP's parents are looking out for OP. Their advice might be misguided, but we don't know the nuance here. They could have said something like, you did a good thing sticking up for your friend, but sometimes that comes with consequences, unfair though that may be. They could have been crappy about it, we don't know. This can be a difficult position for parents, but you want to look out for your kid, but you also want them to have a sense of what's right. Parents can often be well-intentioned, but still slip up. To be sure though, OP did the right thing, and Megan is suffering the consequences of her own actions and nobody else's. Posted by user AmiTheA, titled, Would I be the a-hole if I told my wife that her lesbian friend is in love with her and wishes that she wasn't pregnant? I know this sounds really wrong, but please hear me out. My wife has a girl gang, a group of women who are very close friends and always support each other. One of the girls in this gang is Jill. Jill is a lesbian. Jill always has had this tiny crush on my wife. My wife knows about this, I know, and Jill knows that we know. In fact, Jill also jokes around me that my wife would have been with her had I not been in the picture. Now, I'm possessive, but I trust my wife. Also, Jill has always respected my wife's boundaries, given that she's straight, and has never done anything to make her uncomfortable. Jill has assured my wife that it was just harmless infatuation and nothing to worry about. Yesterday, my wife arranged a barbecue party for her friends, all 7 of them, and the plan was to announce that she's pregnant. We've only recently found out. I was working in my home office when I heard Jill crying, and Amy, another of my wife's friends, consoling her. Jill was also saying that my wife is too young to be pregnant. She's 29, she shouldn't be pregnant. Basically, rambling about the pregnancy and crying. Amy was telling her that it's high time that she got over my wife, and that they don't have any chance. Jill replied saying that she did have a chance with my wife up until now, and this wretched baby ruined it for her. I don't think they know that I was home, as they were talking pretty loudly in the living area. The door to my office was open, so their voices were very clear. I've debated about whether to tell my wife or not, and as far as I know, she's only aware about Jill having a minor crush on her and not the extent of her feelings. I feel like I would want to know if I was in my wife's position. However, this might significantly affect their relationship. Would I be the a-hole if I told my wife that Jill is in love with her? Personally, no. I feel like this is something you do need to sort out, and I imagine it would be the same with your wife if she found out that a man was in love with you, and, you had to know that. If she was feeling uncomfortable, I'm sure she'd want to tell you and have that smoothed over. This instance should be no different. I would want to have things resolved with my wife, and have it not significantly affect their friendship, if at all possible. Definitely, communication is everything in a marriage. You would be the a-hole if you didn't tell her, in all honesty. Not the a-hole. You have to tell your wife. What if Jill does something even more weird? As a pregnant woman, I would not want to be surprised. Exactly. OP should definitely tell his wife about it. Jill seems to be obsessed with OP's wife. I don't want it to sound alarming, but the way Jill thought she had a chance with OP's wife until the baby came into the picture, even though OP is still married to his wife, sounds very wrong. She might try to harm OP or the baby itself, so OP needs to be very careful. It is straight up fudging creepy. I might be overprotective, but if I overheard a man say that about my wife, I would immediately see that guy as a threat and would no longer be okay with my wife being around him, especially not alone. Even though women are usually less of a physical threat than men are, I still think OP has every reason to see her as a threat as well. She sounds nuts. That's just it. Jill is doing the same thing nice guys do, in pretending to be friends, all the while they're just waiting for their shot. I'm going with not the a-hole, as long as you only tell your wife. She for sure has a right to know, especially since Jill will most likely be jealous of the baby. Just make sure you don't wave it around like a flag for everyone to see, you feel me? It doesn't sound like you were planning on doing that all along. Just wanted to be clear on where the a-hole line is. I'd also like to point out that the wife might want to know about the other friend. Hopefully a civil discussion can come out about this, but not to the rest of the group. Why should they not wave it around like a flag? They have every single right to be proud parents. If Jill were a man, this would be straight up sexual harassment. They have no responsibility to regard her feelings, since she feels no responsibility to respect their relationship. On top of that, Jill literally called their future child a wretch. She is incredibly toxic and should be cut off by the wife. They say, I took the flag-waving comment to be about what Jill said, not about the baby. So don't go putting the gossip on blast. Tell the wife, let her handle that with the girl gang, not OP. They have every right to be proud parents and shouldn't have to hide their happiness over the growing family. And yes, Jill needs to be cut off. Posted by user CopyConnect106, titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my son that he's the reason that me and his mother are getting divorced? I know upon reading the title alone, many of you will just call me an a-hole, and you might be right, but I want to explain myself first. My wife and I have been together when we first met in high school. We were able to maintain a long-distance relationship throughout college and stayed true to each other. I truly thought we were inseparable. She gave birth to a boy 12 years ago, and since then, things have changed drastically. My son unfortunately has behavioral problems, and it's been very difficult raising him. He throws temper tantrums, gets in trouble in school frequently, refuses to listen to my wife and I. As a result, my wife and I started having disagreements about how we should handle him, i.e., whether to punish more, let him get his anger out, etc. This created a huge wedge between us that kept getting wider. We both resorted to drinking more and wanting to be away from each other as much as possible to get some relief. We started having more arguments, and eventually, it became so obvious that our marriage was deteriorating that family members started questioning it. So the topic of divorce came up, and we both decided to go through with it. When I first told my son about it, he cried endlessly, then started throwing fits about how unfair it was. I completely understand that a divorce is hard on any child, but the intensity of his fits kept growing. Since my wife and I are separated, not yet divorced, and because she can't tolerate our son that much, we agreed that he gets to spend most of the week with me, unfortunately. So I see him a lot and have to put up with his yelling far more often than she does. Last Friday, he started asking if my wife and I forgave each other, and I told him that the divorce is happening, like it or not. He starts crying, and I got mad at him and told him, "Buddy, you want to know why we're getting divorced? Because of you. We were happy before you were born, but you always act bad and get in trouble. So stop arguing with me when you caused it. You have nothing but yourself to blame." This devastated him, and I did apologize, but I told him there was some truth to what I said. However, since then he's been more quiet and behaved. Even my wife, who was with him over the weekend, said that he was much better. So yes, I think I am the a-hole for telling him he was the reason we're getting divorced. But in some ways, I don't think I am, because maybe it was just something he needed to hear. Opie, I think you could have left this story at the title. Don't think we needed you to dig yourself straight into hell there. I think that was inconsiderate on your behalf, and I don't think that Satan wants that either, okay? I think Satan wants to chuck you into an even deeper layer somewhere. I don't know where you belong, not even hell wants you at this point. If I took you to a counselor and we asked them, "Hey, do you think a kid wants to hear that they're the cause of a divorce?" Do you think the counselor's not going to smack you over the head with his clipboard? That move was definitely not the means to a productive end, OP. And I don't think this sudden change in your son's mood will manifest in a good way in the future. You're the a-hole. Please get some help. Please reverse time if you can and stop yourself from doing that. What the hell's wrong with you? The title was bad, but your explanation was worse. You failed as a parent by not getting him the help he needs and being able to support him as a parent. Now you're not just breaking up his home, but you're telling him it's his fault when the fault lies with you two adults? That's horrific. You're the a-hole. Christ. You're the a-hole. Honestly, it sounds like you've both been crappy parents. That's the reason he acts out. Yes, there may have been some physiological components, but it's your job as parents to get him help, not deal with it by drinking, blaming him, and fighting. This whole situation is a result of your failures. Seriously, this is one of the most horrible things I've seen a parent post on here. It honestly sounds like the poor kid has no one giving him the proper support and structure that he needs, which is a failure on the part of both parents, which has no reflection on the child. Support and structure and working together as a parenting team is especially crucial with a child that has any additional needs, such as behavioral problems. You're the a-hole for not properly supporting your son, for putting undue blame on him, and for telling him you blame him. All of that is on you, OP, not the kid. You're gonna sit here and tell me children don't just autocorrect bad behavior without intervention? How dare you add insult to injury by bringing common sense to combat stupidity and poor parenting? You're the a-hole times 1,000. Yes, the title is bad, but the content of this post isn't better. You're such an a-hole, I can't believe it. You getting divorced isn't his fault. It's not. He's your child. Children throw tantrums, they can also get in trouble at school, and can disagree with their parents. Parenting him is your job, and if you and your wife can't handle it, that's on you. Because she can't tolerate our son that much, we agreed that he gets to spend most of the week with me, unfortunately. Oh, F off with that. That's your child. Your child that is going to a major change in his life, and you say it's unfortunate he's spending most of his time with you? You're the a-hole for telling him the divorce is his fault. You're the a-hole for telling him you and your wife were happy before he was born. You're the a-hole for failing him as a parent and being a crappy person. You're the a-hole for being glad he's calmer now after you destroyed him with your words. I feel so sorry for that kid. He has 2 horrible parents, and I hope he has some other positive support system in his life. Posted by user, Change Your Name, Am I the A-hole? Titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my boyfriend this isn't Game of Thrones, and he doesn't need to continue his family's legacy? I'm 24 female, my boyfriend and I have been dating a little over 2 years. I'm not pregnant, but we got on the subject of future children since we want to eventually marry and start a family together. He wants his first boy to have a family name, understandable, and for all his kids to take his last name since he's an only child and he wants to continue the family legacy. Yes, he said that almost verbatim. And yeah, I laughed a bit because that's a weird thing to say, to be honest. For the record, I already know I'm either going to hyphenate my name or not change it at all when we marry. No shame to women who change their last name, it's everyone's own choice. I'd like our kids to hyphenate too. My boyfriend didn't realize my policy extended to any kids we might have. He's really adamant about continuing on his last name for some reason. It's an uncommon name, but he's not royalty or anything. After going in circles about the legacy and bloodlines and the family name, I eventually told him it's 2020 and we don't live in Game of Thrones, and legacy doesn't mean anything anymore. He's been mad at me for disrespecting his family, and is saying just because I don't care about my family name doesn't mean he doesn't. According to my friends, he's being silly, but I probably could have been more nice about telling him no. Personally, I don't think that you're an a-hole for this, but I know that that mentality still continues to this day. My friend who is estranged in a way from her Scottish father still goes on about the family legacy with the family name that he wants to continue. And to me it was kind of like, why do you care? This has no bearing on reality. Plus you have girls, so the family name's not going to continue through them. I don't know, people get too hung up on it. It's like the family name just overrides your kids in general. I don't get it, I don't understand it. I think that Opie is not the a-hole for not caring. And I think she's not the a-hole for telling her partner so. Just a weird mentality. Not the a-hole. I disagree with one of his main points. You do care about your family name. That's why you want to hyphenate your kids' names. He seems to think that only men caring about their family name has any value. It's interesting that this is you disrespecting his family, but he doesn't mind how disrespectful he's being to you and your family. People are arguing that Opie is being a hypocrite because she claims not to care about legacy, but wants the kids to hyphenate, i.e. have her name. These are totally different issues. She wants to hyphenate, and the guy wants the kids to only have his name. It's a related issue, but it's not quite the same. I can stand Opie wanting it to be obvious that her kids are related to her on paper. I certainly want my kids to have my name too, and because I'm a woman with no brothers or male cousins, and my husband is an only child, we're both the last of our line, so to speak, and want our kids to carry on both of our names into adulthood. If and when they decide to change it, that's 100% on them, and we are obviously fine with it. As someone who had their parents' names hyphenated, please spare your kids. Pick one. My hyphenated name has caused me so much grief and inconvenience when it comes to IDs, records, transcripts, etc., etc., due to length. It also kicks the issue down the road. Imagine two people with hyphenated names marry. Are you gonna quadruple hyphenate? I can't just name change the last name either, because it would add another layer of complexity when I'm trying to get my paperwork together for insurance, loans, etc. My sisters literally joke about how they get to escape he haste when they marry, but I'm stuck with it for life. Please, please don't hyphenate. I wish my parents hadn't almost on the daily. Posted by user AITA222. Titled, Am I the a-hole for telling someone that their tattoo doesn't mean anything? I, 25 female, am very white, but studied Islamic and Middle Eastern studies. I'm fluent in MSA and 3 dialects. I worked for an embassy in a Gulf state for nearly 2 years. Recently, I met a few new people. One of them is a quarter Lebanese, as she has a Lebanese grandmother. To my knowledge, she doesn't speak Arabic. It got a bit awkward when she got a new tattoo. It is in Arabic, and people asked what it means. She said it means sunrise, which unfortunately it doesn't. It is just Arabic letters saying the English word sunrise. So basically when you read it out loud, it says sunrise. I decided to keep this to myself, but then she asked me what I thought of it. I said it's lovely and hoped that would be it. Unfortunately, it hasn't. Someone decided to Google the word sunrise and found its actual spelling. This sparked a discussion about how unreliable the internet is, and eventually someone asked me if maybe there's multiple spellings. That's when I decided to spill the beans. My friend with the tattoo got quite upset, understandably, but then she turned to me and said that it was rude to say that, since she's actually Middle Eastern, and I'm just an imposter. She left shortly after, and our friend group is divided. Wow, I was gonna go with no a-holes here for this one, which is a rare judgment, but then she says that they're an imposter? A little bit racist there, buddy, just a little bit racist. That one turns the tides to OP's not the a-hole. That friend with the tattoo is the a-hole. Sure, OP is lying by omission, but to me it seemed like an unnecessary thing to say. Oh yeah, no, you screwed up your tattoo job. God, that must suck for you. It just spells sunrise in English, but that's not the actual definition that you were going for with your tattoo. God, sorry about it. Sure, you can judge OP for being the a-hole in the situation there, but I don't judge OP for that. I think that's just like any other person that gets a tattoo with Chinese letters on them. Just let them believe what they want to believe. There they go. It's no harm to them. So there's my reasoning, OP not the a-hole. Well, you were just telling them the truth, so I'ma go with not the a-hole. I don't get what she's so upset about. Now she should just tell people it's sunrise transliterated into Arabic script. Most people aren't going to care. To be fair, I too would be upset to learn that I had a misspelled tattoo, and what I wanted tattooed on me was not done the way I wanted. It's permanent after all. That said, OP still isn't the a-hole. She was ready to let it drop, but no one else was. Tattoo artists aren't language experts. If you come to a tattoo artist with something written in a language they don't know, it's not their job to figure that out. It's yours, the customer, to know what it means and have it prepared properly for them. It's their job to just make it look good on your skin. Not the a-hole. You were honest when asked and framed it politely. Your friend used an ad hominem attack. I've had people try and get me on language crap too, using ad hominem attacks, and it's pretty rude. Just tell her it has the same propositional content, despite being phonetically English. She should have researched the tattoo before inking it. Exactly. They didn't ask for their input before the tattoo, so there's not much OP can do anyways. She was just trying to be polite. Posted by user Fufu Bunny La. Titled, Am I the a-hole to ask my friend, single mother, to do a paternity test on her son because I had suspicions my husband is the father? Messy, but I'll make this as short as possible. So one of my best friends had a kid 3 years ago. She said it was a one-night stand, and later the guy expressed no interest in being a dad, so she raised her son herself. No one has ever seen this guy, not even me. The issue is this. This kid looks extremely like my husband, like to an insane degree. The hair color, eyes, face, everything. He's even been out with my friend and her son, and people have mistaken him to be the dad before. Needless to say, for 3 years now, I've had my suspicions, but I haven't said anything. My husband is also close to my friend, and the timeline works out. We were all living almost in the same neighborhood around the time she got pregnant. Over the past year, it's really eaten at me. I see the resemblance growing more and more. It doesn't help that my friend refuses to show me a picture of her son's biological father, no matter how much I asked. It kept spiraling until I had a meltdown and confronted both of them, saying that I will pack up and leave if I don't see a paternity test. Long story short, my friend got a paternity test, but said that our friendship is over. The test says my husband isn't the father, and I feel so ashamed to lose my friend, but I thought my husband would slightly understand, since even he sees the obvious resemblance between him and this kid. But he has moved out for the time being, and I'm worried this is the end of our marriage. Am I the a-hole for insisting on that test? I honestly felt like I had no other choice. The resemblance was unavoidable, and it was eating at me so much that no amount of therapy could help. I thought my husband would understand my fears most of all, given my history with past cheating exes. Did I screw up, and how badly? OP, Jesus Christ. You might want to join that man, grab a shovel, and help him dig down to hell too. Oh no. What have you done here? You screwed up big time. This may be one of the biggest screw-ups you've had to date, I imagine. It's not particularly normal to force your friends to have a paternity test with your husband and continue to berate them about it for a long time, to force them into doing it, and then, try and have everyone be cool with it after the fact, when it's proven that, hey, the husband is not the father. I mean, I think a lot of people could have seen from a mile away that this was going to destroy the friendship. I know that it eased your nerves to actually have the results and be assured, but how did you not think that this woman was going to detach you guys from her life? That's what I want to know. I want to know how you reconciled and convinced yourself that this wouldn't destroy relationships left, right, and center. You're the a-hole. I thought my husband would slightly understand, since even he sees the obvious resemblance between him and this kid. Wait, so you thought your supposedly cheating husband would just casually comment on his love child like, "Oh gee, honey, doesn't he look just like me?" to his already paranoid wife? Why the hell would he do that if he was actually guilty? Why the hell would either of them indulge you if they actually cheated? What a mess. You need professional help, OP. I don't think it will save your marriage or friendship, but hopefully it will save you from yourself. You're the a-hole. Remember when Arnold Schwarzenegger's housekeeper had a son that looked unmistakably like him, and how that turned out? That boy is his identical damn clone with a tan though. I don't know how nobody saw that sooner. Arnold has a very unique look. I don't know how he looked as a child though. Probably less bulky. It'd be nice if we could just believe people who swear they weren't cheating, but that's just what cheaters would do, so we can't. I don't even know where to begin judging this one. How would that even go? Babe, I know this is stupid, but the kid looks a lot like you, and I just can't get this idea out of my head. What should I do? Faithful spouse's response says, "I've always been faithful to you, I hate to say it, but this sounds like your past experiences with cheating exes is messing with your head. If you pursue this, it's going to ruin your friendship and strain our marriage. Please listen to me and figure a way to get over it." Oh, it's the same thing with a cheating spouse's response. If you suspect cheating but can't prove it, what are you supposed to do? The only two options I can think of are burning it all down, right or wrong, and just let it go, right or wrong. Once you start trying to prove it, accusing people of cheating and asking for evidence, etc., those friendships are pretty much trashed either way. If you're right, they're goddamn cheaters and that's the end of the friendship. If you're wrong, congratulations. You've accused your friends of betraying you and that's the end of the friendship. So I think you have to ask yourself, what's more important to you? Losing your friends but knowing for sure, or keeping your friends and living with the doubt? Going against the grain to give no a-holes here. This thread is a classic case of outcome bias. A judgment of OP's decisions should only depend on the information that was available to OP when those decisions were made. So, the outcome of the paternity test should not affect judgment. Yet, I guarantee all of these "you're the a-holes" would be not the a-holes if the test came back positive. It's too bad that you couldn't move past this. In hindsight, it was just your paranoia, but hindsight is 2020. Go to any Reddit thread about suspected cheating, and you will find hundreds of comments telling you to trust your gut feelings and find the truth. Well, that's what you did, and now Reddit crucifies you for it. Typical. You made a decision that would ease your suspicions while ending your relationships, no matter the outcome. It's a tough trade, and now it's time to face the consequences of it. But, hopefully, it is better than being driven to wit's end by uncertainty. Alright guys, that's where I'm going to end today's video. I really do hope you enjoyed it, and maybe even learned something that you didn't know before. If you haven't already, please do feel free to click that like button, as it really does help me in the YouTube algorithm. And if you haven't already and you loved today's video, please feel free to subscribe. I would love it a lot. Also, big shout out to all my Patreon members and channel subscribers. You guys are all up on the screen right now. I love you. I love your faces. Also, I love seeing you guys all chatting down below in the comments. It brightens my day to see the stories that you guys share and just the kind words you guys always have for my videos, as well as everyone else in the videos. I love you too. But honestly, your ongoing support means the world to me, and I just love it so much that you guys are able to support a career for myself that I invest so much time into. And you guys honestly motivate me to work harder each and every day to put more love into the videos for you guys. If you guys have watched this far in the video and you haven't already subscribed on Patreon or become a channel member, that's cool, you don't have to, but there are links down below. You can donate any amount of money, pledge that any month, cancel whenever. I'm completely cool with it. It's just there for you to support me if you'd like to go the extra mile. And I'll go the extra mile for you guys by putting out new amazing content every single day. With that said guys, I really hope you have a good day, night, sleep, bath, time at work, whatever you're up to today. This has been Markee. I'll see you in the next amazing video. Bye.